What is shaking, everybody? Chad's ready. I'm ready. Welcome to House Divided here on Orangebloods Live. I'll just go ahead and tell you, do us a solid, like this video. There are 8 people who were waiting for the show to begin, Chad, that liked the show before we came on. God bless those people.
Oh, you damn right. I love seeing the folks getting lined up. It's like we're a movie. It's like we're Return of the Jedi back in the day. The kids are lined up around the block, ready to see what's going to happen.
Is that what it's like?
Yes, okay. Exactly. Except for costumes. They're not dressing up like you and me. But
you don't know that.
Other than that, dead on, yes.
Somebody could be sitting in a T-shirt with no shorts right now, and it would be like dressing up as us. Glasses on, no hair. I don't know.
Exactly. All right, Ketch, I bet big news for you. Are you ready?
Well, yeah.
Last night, I told you guys I was going to the piano bar with my parents, right?
Oh.
First piece of good news is my mom did not get in a bar fight. She did not get in an argument. She didn't get us thrown out. So that was fantastic.
Were you worried about that? I did not realize that was a concern.
Well, there was a little concern. Apparently, there was some issue with the bill last time, and my mom was going itemized over the bill with the owner, and there was a little bit of a thing, right? But don't worry, because if there's one thing Sylvia Hastings is going to do, she's going to get what she deserves, and she's not paying you any extra for stuff she didn't buy and drink and eat. So she's going to make sure, right? Anyway, so we had a great time. The piano man was great. And my mom gave me the card of the piano man. Piano man Mike, where is it? Right here. Piano man Mike. Piano man Mike is the guy. He was awesome last night. There you go. He was great. Cool to meet him. And then Ketch, right in the middle of the piano performance is going on, and this guy walks up, looks at me and goes, "You Chad?" And I said, "Yeah." Reaches over, shakes my hand. Love the show, man. Love the show. Glad you and Ketch are back together. I watched you guys back in the day. Just wanted to come say hello. And I'm like, "Thank you, man. What's your name?" And I believe he said his name was Jerry. Jerry, if I got that wrong, I did have a couple of drinks. That's my bad. But I'm pretty sure you said Jerry. He was nice enough to say hello. He's in the air, lives in the area. I don't know if he heard me say I was going down there, but I got recognized in Cisco, Texas because of you and me. How about that?
He was like, he heard the show yesterday.
Yeah.
It was like, wait a minute. Chad's going to go see Piano Man Mike tonight?
That's right. And he also learned that I'm such a slob. I wore the same exact clothes that I had on the show to go down there. So I literally looked exactly the same as he saw on the show.
Where is, there's Chad, same clothes.
Same clothes, right? He had that. He's going to have that shirt on all day. So shout out to Jerry and everybody down at Muddy Mike's downtown Cisco, where they are now serving alcohol. It is a true revolution going on, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so guys, yes, as you can tell by the title of the show, somebody said we should change it to Simmons in to LSU for show clicks. I like where your head is.
Yes.
It would be a good short-term solution for clicks. Maybe problematic in the long term.
That's right.
You don't want to be the show that's like, they put LSU and Simmons for clicks. We won't do that.
No, we're not going to do that. And also, I should clarify, Ketch, I'm not wearing purple for LSU today. This is Stephen F. Austin, my wife's alma mater. So this is all about the Lumberjacks today. I'm not trying to make a comment with the purple in terms of Simmons. So I don't want anybody mad at me on the chat.
It's a little close. It's a little too on the nose, Chad.
It is, and I swear I didn't think of it. That's one of those. I've been accused of being unintentionally either interesting or funny or whatever. Like I'm not meaning to do it. This is not a comment. I swear. I saw the shirt and I thought, hey, I'm gonna go with the SFA shirt. That was it. That's it.
First super chat of the day, back to back, $6.66.
Woo, devil money.
Let's start this right. Luke says a compliment about Ketch is he is the bald meatloaf of sports. Chad is just Chad.
Okay, Luke.
Luke and PA.
Luke and PA, I love that you're giving the Devils money. 666 is fantastic. And hey, you know what? I'll take that for now. Chad is just Chad. He didn't say I was bad. He didn't say I was awful. Just Chad is just Chad. My wife would probably agree with you. So there you go.
I don't know why we're talking about my shirts, but I do have a yellow shirt.
Do you?
I have all kinds of colors of shirts. I'll get shiny and like colorful if we need to.
This feels like a teal today. Am I seeing that right?
It is kind of a teal.
Kind of a teal, yeah.
Brings out the blue in my eyes, I've been told.
Oh, well, you got to do that. Bringing out the blue. Bringing out
one lady at Killen's Barbecue here in the Woodlands that if I wear this shirt, the panties practically drop.
That's it.
She tells me every time, and it means I've probably only done it twice, right? Like I'm not wearing this shirt every day, but when I've worn this shirt inside Killen's Barbecue, I watch the butterflies take off.
Sure.
And she mentions it. She's like, I love that color on you and what it does to your eyes. And when you're married, every once in a while, it's nice to be like,
yeah. Eyes can be a big deal. It feels like to the ladies a little more than the guys, even that the eyes are important. You know, Cal Ripken had the eyes back in the day. A-Rod, I think, has got those eyes. Who's the guy on the Texas baseball team that had the eyes? I can't think of it off the top of my head. Somebody
they
this
all
year.
Have eyes.
No. It's a good point. They've got eyes, Chad. No, there was a particular guy on the team that even David Pierce talked about it and said, yeah, there's just something about his eyes. He was an eye model as a kid. I can't think of who it is on the Texas team, but he literally, seriously.
Somebody's going to know in the Chad.
Come on, they're going to throw it in the chat.
Eye model was.
Y'all help me out. I am not making this up. They'll know who it is, but he literally was an eye model when he was a little kid, like for eyeglasses places. There it is, Porter Brown. Thank y'all. So he was a model for like glasses companies and stuff when he was a kid. And David Pierce just went on one time in a media session about, there's just something about his eyes. You can't stop looking at him. And I'm like, okay, the kid must have great eyes.
So I've been told, Darwin. I've been told.
Yes, Darwin, women do have eyes. That is
By
true.
the way, Sam's like, as long as Ketch has a shirt on, we're good. I would make the case that I could not have a shirt on and that this camera angle's okay. Like if all you were getting was shoulders and no nipples or man boobs or jelly rolls or anything, it was just shoulders, I think it'd be okay.
In theory, I understand the point you're making, but
if you made me like throw my head back and it's like, whoa,
let's not test that theory. Either one of us. I don't need any exposed shoulders in this show. Please.
I'm just saying. Ben, who was trying to start some stuff with me and Anwar in the last show, it seemed like it.
Ben, no, Ben, stop it.
Ben was like, Anwar is talking about Ketch. So then I rewound it and listened to it, and it was like, well, no, he's not. He's not talking about me.
Yeah, no, we don't need to be talking about people taking shirts off. That's not good. Not good at all.
No, Jay, you don't know. You don't know what. Hey, you don't know what you're missing, buddy. So look, it'll be a big college. So let's lay out the show.
Okay.
We're gonna have fun. As you can tell, we're 9 minutes in, and I'm revealing shoulders like I'm Florence Pugh and Oppenheimer. Chad, read this. Sorry. There are people who haven't seen the movie that will not completely understand the Sanskrit joke that I just told.
Nothing better than a Sanskrit joke on a Wednesday. Look out.
Read this, Chad.
Hump Day Sanskrit jokes. Send them in on the chat.
Never mind. We're going to do Colin Simmons today. Look, we're partly in a good mood because nobody's jumping off of the Congress Street Bridge or a 360 bridge because of whatever Colin Simmons may or may not do. We are 26 hours-ish away from Colin Simmons, 5-star Duncanville defensive end, announcing his college choice, at least for tomorrow. Don't forget, kids, I've been telling you, this thing really is this recruitment will get tense in November and December, no matter what. But he makes his announcement tomorrow. And it feels like today, Chad, has been LSU media concession day.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Kind of okay. All right.
It kind of reminds me when coaches are up for jobs, and then when they don't get the job, right before the school announces who they're going to hire, like when Texas hired Mac Brown, right before the story broke, Gary Barnett is issuing the release. It's like, I want to inform everybody that I plan on staying at Colorado, and that's how that's going to go. Yes. That's what today is. It's the schools who were involved are letting their media people know it ain't going to be us. And then those media people, because there hasn't been a whole lot of Texas reporters today who've added to the story. The story is that a bunch of LSU people are coming out and they're like, probably not going to be us. And then that's the story.
A little bit of a droopy, a little bit of Eeyore. Well,
it's Eeyore Wednesday.
It's going to be Texas. I think he's going with the orange. All right, Eeyore, calm down, man. You got Death Valley and everything, right?
Well, the funny thing about this, Chad, is LSU's going to get a borderline 5-star running back commitment tomorrow, and then it's going to feel like a bad day for them.
That's how you know you're a badass college football recruiting team. You guys got a 5-star running back today. Yeah, we did. Well, why are you upset? Because we didn't get the DN2.
That's right. Some bullshit is what that is, Chad.
It's some crap, man. So, so there's some LSU folks on the inside saying they believe that this could end up being a Texas decision tomorrow. But let's give some credit to Colin Simmons as well, Ketch. I know it's tough for Texas fans to think about it this way, but from the entertainment standpoint, Colin Simmons is still playing his hands. And today he played 3 of them. He sent pictures of himself in all 3 uniforms out to the people. I don't know if we have these to display to the people, but in the full breakdown of what he sent out, I'm just going to say from the crap bag picture angle, my tea leaves would say LSU because the best picture he sent out was LSU.
It's an awesome LSU picture.
Yeah. So the Texas one was cool.
Yeah.
Orange background he's in, and I tweeted this out earlier at C Hastings OBL. You can go check out all 3 at once if you want. So orange background, he's in the gear. He's got his arms folded, visor. He looks like a badass. The Miami one, I think, Ketch, you nailed this. The Miami one, it looks like he came up with a concept, and then right as he was about to play it out and take the picture, the janitor turned the light off. Like right as he was about to take it.
I was like, is someone holding Colin Simmons hostage? What's happening here?
Yeah, right. Colin, blink twice if you need us to call someone. So the locker room is dark. He's wearing a black uniform. If I was going to really pimp the Canes, I would not be wearing black. I would wear the Canes. I'd wear their classic uni and show something bright. So the fact that he's in all black is weird. So it's very dark. I didn't love that one, but the Baton Rouge one, he does a Colin Baton Rouge hashtag. He's up at the top of Tiger Stadium on one side of the stadium, which I think ultimately would be the south side of the stadium on the river side, if you've ever been there. He's squatting down. You're looking over him into a completely empty stadium at night, and it's awesome. So if that matters, I'll say LSU. But the LSU folks today are saying that they feel like that whatever's going to happen in November, December, that may be separate, that now the LSU folks are saying what you've been saying, Ketch, that if you had to absolutely go with it, your tea leaves are still going Texas for tomorrow, correct?
Absolutely. I made a post last night, good vibes only on Tuesday. It's even been more so on Wednesday. Real quick, just a couple of chats that I noticed. Richard, thank you, my man. Like that, we appreciate that. Like,
woo! Come on, Richard.
That picks us up, man. That makes us want to get up and do the shows when the super chats come in and it's just a good old attaboy. Thank you, Richard. You're on our Christmas list.
Nice.
This just cracked me up.
Eeyore's my spirit animal. Be nice to old Eeyore. Oh, I love Eeyore, but it's just such a great emotional path he's always on. Like nothing's ever good. He'll find the bad version. So
I feel like Too Broke to Pay Attention, Chad, just told us a lot about himself.
He did. Right. If you admit Eeyore's your spirit animal, when Too Broke to Pay Attention is out with friends and it's like, hey man, we got free tickets to Oppenheimer. His answer is, but it's all 3 hours. We've got to. Yeah, it is. It is. You're right. Okay.
Have you seen Inside Out? That's basically sadness, right? It's
the sadness, right? Exactly.
Anyway,
That is it.
Shout out to Eeyore. Who doesn't love a good Eeyore?
That's fantastic.
Just in person. I didn't even know you had Eeyore inside of you.
Dude, that is so good. All right, so today for the first, look at that. 199 super chat is Simmons. Is Simmons hurts LSU fans? Wait for McKinley.
Yeah, they got there's a kid in Louisiana. Remember we were talking yesterday that weirdly Texas is recruiting Louisiana better than maybe LSU is, and that you could make a case early on that LSU is recruiting Texas better than Texas is. They got a defensive lineman, McKinley, that's coming down the pike. Could be headed Texas's way. More than anything, it feels like the vibe is he may not end up at LSU. I would say that's another recruitment that stay tuned in November and December. Don't get completely worked up by what happens. It's interesting. My number one source hasn't said a lot about McKinley, and I don't know what that means. It's not necessarily a negative, but my number one source is like Simmons, Black, and there's an offensive lineman out of California, Brandon Baker. Those are the ones that I think inside the locker, inside the coach's office, those guys I think they feel the best about.
Okay.
And then I think there's a tier beyond that. I think McKinley's probably on that tier.
That's why I was asking you about kind of whichever way this goes, the team that doesn't get the news tomorrow, is there somebody immediately? Is McKinley also a D end?
D tackle.
D tackle. Okay. Yeah. And is he more on the LSU radar than he is on the Texas radar? Is that kind of what you're?
But it's the fact that he's one of the best prospects in Louisiana, top 5 prospect in Louisiana. Some people, some recruiting services have him ranked as a 5-star defensive lineman. Okay. Rivals has him rated as the number 120 ranked player in the state or in the country, which is it's kind of a drag. I mean, some people, I in the past might argue, well, we're kind of quibbling, right? If you're saying one guy's 25th in the country and another guy's 120th, but actually is a pretty stark difference in evaluations. It is, you know what it kind of reminds me of is Bryce Foster from a year ago out of Austin Westlake. Rivals had him as a 5-star. Some other organizations didn't quite have him. Do me a favor, as A&M practices get deep into the month of August.
Yeah.
Get me a Bryce Foster update.
Okay.
Because Texas fans are convinced that he's just going to fall off the face of the earth and not be any good. And Rivals ranked him like a guy that they think will be a high NFL draft pick.
Yeah, Aggies need that to go the opposite way. Big time. Big time. All right, Ketch, does this happen often? Russell, super chat $9.99.
He has a comment. Don't worry.
Just lays it down. Just lays it down. Oh, okay. If Simmons picks Texas, Chad should be decked out in Texas gear.
I do not have this thing again where if something happens, one of us has to do something. But if it goes the other way, like what are the stakes here? What does Chad get?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. What if he picks LSU? Do I get a bowl of gumbo? Like, what are we talking about?
Maybe I have to put on an Aggie shirt or something. Like, I don't know.
By the way, I don't have any Longhorn stuff with me. If that
matters. I don't have any. I have a maroon shirt though. It's not really maroon. I have argued forever that it's not truly maroon. I think I look good in it. I will wear it on the show one day, and I want your opinion. Okay. If you think it's – I had a guy who was like, don't ever wear that shirt again, or I will not watch Orangebloods live.
Wow.
And I may cancel my subscription.
Okay.
Because he thought it was like does A&M get to – even if it was maroon, does that mean nothing ever? I had a maroon car once. Like, is that color just shut off?
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, I hate the Eagles, but, like, I don't just not – no green anywhere. Ketch, do you want a green screen? No. I'm not going to have a Philadelphia Eagles color, but I got – it's just kind of a weird concept. Anyway.
Okay.
Sorry. Hey, can I get a rant out, by the way? You want to know the oldest thing about me?
Sure.
This today made me feel old.
All right.
I'm at Honeybee Sandwich Place in the Woodlands. They make an amazing burger, Chad, but like at the end of the day, They make good sandwiches. Honeybee.
Right.
Go get you some Honeybee ham, right? Honeybee likes to play classic rock. So when you walk into Honeybee, it's Zeppelin, you get some old Van Halen. It's the gamut, right?
Right. Maybe a little CCR. You get a little CCR.
Of course.
Bad Moon Rising. Yeah.
You'll even get some Beatles.
Sure.
I heard some Janis today.
Janis Joplin. Excellent. Yeah.
But then a song from the 90s, a rock song comes on.
Yeah.
And the oldest thing about me is that it pisses me off that the 90s rock music, which is 30 years old,
it counts,
would be considered classic rock.
Yeah, dude. The classic is 25. I'm about to have my 30th high school reunion. That means anything from, the 30 gets you to 93. So just back up.
I do not subscribe to the idea that 90s rock should be playing on the same station with Zeppelin.
98, technically, right? So 98. The music from 98 on is classic now.
I found myself getting angry. Like, I can't even remember what song it was. It was one of those crappy rock songs, like pop rock from the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was like, no, this is a good station. You guys play good music. Leave the rock music. It wasn't even like they were playing grunge. It wasn't even they were playing good rock kind of music from the 90s.
Right.
They were playing like that bubblegum rock from the 90s.
It wasn't like
the guys with the two twins with the long hair.
Nelson.
I think it might have been like the Nelson twins.
Oh, see, that'd be bad if you heard Nelson. See, I'd have to go date. I would have thought that was a little bit out of the range, but yeah, that's rough.
Anyway,
yeah.
Woosaw. I need to get that out.
Makes you feel old, no doubt. Makes you feel old. Heck, now every time I have a conversation with our producer Blake, whose age does, I believe, start with a 2, I'll start to say something and I realize, wait, he may have no idea what I'm talking about right now, and I have to double check.
Blake's not even classic rock yet. He's 98, so he's close, right? He's on the line.
If he's had his birthday this year, he's officially classic rock.
There it is. I think he's feeling good about himself right now. Oh yeah. 98 classic rock.
I like this one, Ketch. I'm glad you pulled it up. Jay, $2 super chat. Thank you, Jay. Thanks for checking it out. What's the recruiting pitch against us right now? We would assume that's Texas. So, Ketch, what do you think? What's the thing that would be playing against the Longhorns and towards the Tigers when it comes to Simmons?
So you want me to be an LSU coach?
Maybe if that's how you want to look at it. Yeah. What's being said? What's being used against?
Why are you going to Texas to waste your career? Coach Sark isn't a big time coach.
Yeah. And maybe the Coach Kwiatkowski numbers and lists of who I think that's more. I think you could say, yeah,
they don't know what to do with you. The Texas as a whole hasn't historically in the last decade really been doing real well with prospects of your ilk.
Yeah. And then if
it was me, I would be hitting on the fact that 13-12, he's never won more than 9 games in a season, never won 9 in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, Brian, if I'm LSU, I'd be like, Brian Kelly, you're going to be in the playoffs with LSU with Brian Kelly. He's a playoff level coach.
Right.
But, Texas's pitch sounds a lot different. I think, the worst thing that ever happened to Sark, well, perspective, right? I mean, losing his job, the worst part of that wasn't what I'm about to tell you. It was that he was in the situation that he was in and he lost his job. But he had just landed the number 1 recruiting class in the country at USC. The thought was they were just on the precipice of taking off, at which point maybe the 9 wins, the 10 wins, the 11 wins, maybe that would have already happened. And then maybe if he loses his job, then it's like, well, that happened. But before he left, we could see that he's a big-time coach. I think Sarkisian's still trying to prove that it's year 3 at Texas. Like, That's the pressure I think that's on his shoulders. Do you really because he recruits like a devil, man. He's a witch. You knew when he got the Texas job that he was going to do a great job in recruiting because he did a great job at recruiting at USC. Like, he's a made man in that world. We're still waiting to see if he's a made man as a head coach in terms of developing players and winning games. If I'm recruiting against Texas, I think, and I'm an LSU level program, that's what I'm pointing at. Do you want to take a risk or not?
Yeah, that's fair. Here's another interesting one, Ketch. $10 super chat. Thank you.
Okay, so we both just keep clicking on it.
Oh, my bad.
You do the honors.
Okay.
There
so y'all give me this fancy technology to use. Now I'm clicking like crazy.
That is one of the only things that bad can happen is we both have the same idea at the same time.
I found the only way to screw that up. Well done.
Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Aggie found a way to screw up the technology. There it is. Okay. $10 super chat. Buck Wild Longhorn. How much do you think Black, Wingo, Hudson, and others are paying attention to what Simmons does tomorrow? Or do y'all think it's a non-factor? An interesting question, Ketch, because basically you're asking about the Pied Piper quality of a particular recruit. We know Arch Manning has that kind of power. Do you believe Colin Simmons is that level dude that people, because everybody he just mentioned there is a different position, right? Black's a corner. Wingo and Hudson are both receivers, if I'm not mistaken. Do you think Simmons matters that much to guys at other positions?
If he doesn't come to Texas, yes. I think there's probably more bad than good that happens here in terms of immediate impact. Most of these guys for the last month plus have assumed that Simmons was going to end up at Texas. Because coming out of that Texas official visit, that was Black certainly was feeling that. Wingo was on that trip as well. He would have sensed that Simmons was coming to Texas. If Simmons doesn't commit to Texas, I think it's a red flag for those guys. Like, what just happened? 6 weeks ago, he was all about it. And now he's not going to Texas. What does he know that I don't know? And then you get a guy like Kobe Black, who's now the last remaining in-state guy. And he may be like, well, I don't want to do this by myself. I could go to LSU and play with Caden Durham and play with Colin Simmons. And suddenly there's a group of guys that those guys view as actual peers. And so I don't know that Simmons coming to – it will help with – I think it's – let me answer it like this. Put that back up, Blake or Chad, whichever one of you unclicked it. Or I'll do it. I'm not –
I got you.
Okay. I think it helps with Black. I don't think it really matters with Wingo and Hudson. I mean, we had Cole Patterson on from Rivals.com yesterday. He thinks Texas is running third now for Micah Hudson, which still kind of blows my mind. Ryan Wingo, there's a lot left in his recruitment. I think he's got his own set of issues that are outside of Simmons. I think it really helps with Kobe Black. And I think Texas is already really close to getting Kobe Black. This, I think, really helps. I think if he were to commit to LSU, I think that I'm weirdly a little more concerned about the Kobe Black recruitment for Texas in a world where Simmons commits to LSU. I think this, though, on the positive side, if he ends up at Texas tomorrow, I think that could be one little extra favor in Texas's side of the equation that pushes Kobe Black over the edge. And Texas already has advantages with Kobe Black, right? I mean, you've got Jelani McDonald right now, who was his teammate last year. That's the big one. There's just a lot of thought that those two guys are going to want to play in college together. Texas gets McDonald. Kobe Black's been leaning heavily to Texas when he could have gone somewhere else that last weekend of July when Colin Simmons goes to LSU. Kobe Black made a return trip to Texas. Again, a lot of signs pointing in that direction. You just don't want a speed bump. And I think that Simmons committing to Texas is the anti-speed bump. And I think things look real good for Texas. Again, my sources have consistently said, if you're talking about guys that they feel the best about, Colin Simmons, Kobe Black, Brandon Baker, the borderline five-star, probable five-star offensive lineman at the end of the day. I think Texas feels today like they're going to get all three of those guys.
Gotcha. Okay. Quick question, Ketch. Technically, now that I'm into this full version of the show, if I see this eyeball icon near you and it says 384, does that mean 384 people are experiencing us right now?
Yeah, but that's an unofficial number, I think.
Okay. All right. So that's not like an algorithm that's counting the number of collectible cards behind you or anything weird like that. That's people watching us. So if I say find 16 of your friends and let's get up over 400 people, like, is that rude? Is it what, like, is that something
it's not rude?
Is that something we should comment on?
I don't think it's a big deal, but I would say if there's 384 people watching right now and we have 65 likes,
that's a little sad.
I mean, maybe hit the like button.
So hit that like button. I will not do a thumbs up. I learned that was bad yesterday. So hit the like button. Get your notifications turned on. Subscribe to the page. We're trying to get to 17,000 subscribers. That's our next big plateau. We hit 16.1 yesterday. We're rolling up. So help us get there. Thank you so much for that. We went
up like 15 likes just by doing that.
Now
we're like 25 likes. That's why we have to mention like the video and subscribe to the channel. It literally makes people, I can hit that thumbs up button.
Ain't nothing wrong with a lazy like. Even if it's a lazy like, we will take it. So later on in the show, we've got buy or sell at 1 as normal. Ketch, what do I need to know about Kieran Hickey Simple, who is joining the show at 120? I know you're excited about it. Blake's excited about it. Tell me and the people that don't know him why they should be excited.
He's really funny.
Okay.
There's a good chance that he will say something that could get us taken off the air.
Wow.
Like it's a good that we're not like operated by the FCC.
Okay.
Good chance like Kieran might just say something.
I feel like he's he feels like a tortured Texas fan. He feels like a really tortured Texas fan.
They're all tortured Texas fans, Chad.
Right? But But he feels like he takes it all really seriously. He's really, really intense about the Longhorns. Is that fair?
He's very passionate. He's very passionate.
This is his one team, correct? Like if there's one team.
Oh yeah, Texas is his team.
This is it. Okay. So we'll get his Longhorn thoughts. Have you
heard
this?
He dies by the Longhorns. We had back during the end of the last football season, he was doing a show for us here on Orangebloods once a week at night. It was a hell of a lot of fun. He's got some other projects he's working on. So like the relationship separating for now while he goes and explores New York City and kind of tries to make the big time. But it's been too long since we've had him on the network and he's absolutely fantastic.
So that's coming up. And then at 2:00, since we previewed the Manziel documentary in the crap bag yesterday, we're going to put the review in the crap bag today. 2:00, we are going to give you our thoughts on the Manziel documentary. What did I think of the Manziel documentary? What did Ketch think of the Manziel documentary? What did we love that was in there? And what did we think maybe was missing from the Manziel documentary? We'll get into all that at 2:00.
And real quick, at 2:00, in case you need to program yourself, if you're thinking to yourself, I don't want to hear Ketch and Chad talk about Johnny Manziel, I have a story specific to Manziel and the University of Texas that if you're a Texas fan, maybe you don't want to hear, but maybe you want to hear at the same time. Yeah. I don't think Texas fans have ever heard this story. So this isn't one of these Ketch tells us all the time on Orangebloods. He's going to recycle something that I've heard. You have never heard what I'm going to tell you at 2:00.
Plus, here's a little teaser for everybody else because it freaked me out. I still have not heard exactly where Ketch is going here. Ketch messaged me earlier that there's something Johnny Manziel and Drew Brees have in common. That it's exactly the same thing. And I'm like, I can't think of one thing right now other than throwing a football. I'm trying to think what is it? I can't wait to hear what that is at 2:00.
So we've got that. Why don't we take a break? When we come back, here's the thing, Chad.
Okay.
I was looking at transfer numbers across the country yesterday. And I've seen some that are just going to blow my mind, and I think the viewers' mind. And it has me asking a question of whether or not Texas is handling the transfer portal correctly. You guys don't get on tilt. Don't start cursing me out. But maybe you want to see the graphic that I'm going to put up in a little in like 2 minutes. And it's just a question: is Texas doing enough in the portal? hang with us. It'll all make sense in a bit. This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the biggest UT football stars of the last decade. Bijan Robinson was a 5-star prospect by Rivals when he signed with the Longhorns, finishing as the nation's number 18 overall prospect, the second best prospect in the state of Arizona, and the number 1 running back in the country, according to Rivals.com. Upon retrospect, it's kind of amazing that former running backs coach Stan Drayton was able to land Robinson when you consider that Ohio State was perceived as a massive leader for much of his recruitment. In fact, on the day he committed, Rivals.com recruiting analyst Adam Gorney told Orangebloods, quote, even after the Atlanta 5-star challenge, it almost felt like Ohio State was the foregone winner, Gorney said that day. But as it got closer, I think the realization that he would basically be going across the country to play football kind of set in. He really liked Texas and USC a lot, had connections to both schools, liked the staffs, and how they would use him, and wound up finding a school closer to home that he was very happy with. It wasn't until Robinson visited Texas on an unofficial visit for the spring game in April that Texas began to make it surge. By the time June rolled around, a couple of months later, the Longhorns had emerged as a team to beat in his recruitment. Robinson was a part of a 2020 recruiting class that finished 14th in the nation that year in the Rivals.com rankings, and what turned out to be the final full recruiting class for Tom Herman. A few years later, and there's not a ton of meat on the bone with respects to the elite prospects from that year outside of Robinson. Jake Majors and Jaron Thompson remain as a few of the higher ranked players in that class, but it's actually 2 of the lower ranked prospects in the class, Jahdae Barron and Jalen Ford, that have made the biggest impact as the class begins to wrap up its contribution to the Texas football program.
Ketch, there's very few athletes that can make TJ Ford seem surly. Bijan Robinson at times did that. It's a hard thing to do, but like sometimes his happiness was so infectious, it kind of threatened to even be that big to me. I love the guy.
I hate to do the thing where he's like the anti Johnny Manziel, because I'm not trying to pit the two guys against each other. That's not fair, but they are opposite, both like super duper players. And I think as they enter the NFL, you just feel completely different about, they're almost like polar opposites. And just in terms of kind of like everything, I will say this before we get into the Manziel documentary, we'll wait and do that at 2:00. We need to be able to have some space to do that. Johnny, your mind did not change about Johnny Manziel if you watched last night. Like
that's fair.
I don't think he won I don't think you watched that and if you didn't like him before, nothing about that made you go, you know what? Change my mind about Johnny. He's a good dude.
It was on brand.
It really was.
Yeah, if you were shocked by last night, that's kind of on you. Either way.
This is Planet Earth. Glad to have you.
Either way, right? Welcome to his story if last night really changed you. I agree.
Okay, so Chad, last night, by the way, we're going to do buy or sell at 1:00. Kieran, I really feel like that's all I need to say. Our boy Kieran, who we haven't had on the network here in, 8 months. No, more like 7 months. He will join us at 2:15 or 1:15, excuse me. I'm forgetting what time it is. Last night I went to Rivals.com, the main actual Rivals.com, because I wanted to see if our boy Cole Patterson had written an article based on his visit with DeCorian Moore, who is the big-time 2025 wide receiver at Duncanville.
That's the guy who will not be announcing anything tomorrow, but
Correct.
Still a big-time guy. Yeah.
Yes. And since he was around him, I wanted to see if he had written anything. And when I went to the front of Rivals.com, there was this big announcement that they've debuted this deal where they're combining the Rivals rankings. They're calling it the comprehensive rankings. And what the comprehensive rankings are, it's the recruiting rankings with the transfer rankings, merge them into one, And then you've got the comprehensive rankings. And, so I clicked on that link because I was interested about that. And things don't really change. You still got Alabama. You still got Georgia. You still got USC. Texas ranked 5th. So I think Texas was 4th in the recruiting rankings. You add the transfer stuff together, they finished 5th. But then I clicked on the actual team rankings for transfers. And I took a screenshot of it.
Okay.
Because it blew my mind.
So this is transfers coming into a school.
Correct.
And a ranking based on that.
And it's not a total net number of like you lost this many and you gained this many. It's not a net number, it's just incomings.
But it also does
graphic.
But this also takes into account quality as well, not just quantity.
So here are the rankings.
Okay.
And if you can see at the top, Colorado has 50 incoming transfers.
Prime time.
50.
50.
I mean, I would say I've never seen that before.
Man.
But everybody kind of knows it, right? Like, yes.
I'm going to tell you what, Ketch, from what I'm seeing there, if Colorado hits on their 3 stars, they're going to be all right. 33 of them? Wow.
They don't? And that doesn't include their recruiting class, I don't think. Yeah, it doesn't. That's just so when you include the recruits that they bring in plus the transfers, we're talking about 80% of the roster. Like it's wow.
Yeah, that's huge.
But I start scrolling down and look, they're not the only ones. Ole Miss, you're going to see them this year.
Yeah,
24. They have an entire. That's a full, from a recruiting standpoint, you're used to 25-man recruiting classes.
Yeah.
Mississippi basically has a full recruiting class full of transfers themselves. Like everybody's talking about Colorado and justifiably so, but man, when you start looking behind them, Louisville's got 25. SMU signed 25.
SMU.
2.
Wow.
Arizona State, 28. USC is a top 5 team in the country with Caleb Williams coming back. They've got 15.
See, right now, real quick, Ketch, just to look at a number, if you ask me what's that average number, I'm guessing in this version of college football, around 10 or 15 is not nuts.
No.
I would think that's about a number I'd look for. If I'm saying, what's my team going to do? I'd be thinking like 10 to 15 would make sense.
And look, A&M 2 years ago did nothing in the portal. I mean, it was a talking point because they'd done so well recruiting. You could understand why Jimbo leaned into his college football the high school stuff because they've been doing the number 1 class.
Right.
But you go 5-7 and you go 5-7 and you see other teams making big turnarounds using the portal. This is a year where A&M dipped into the portal pretty heavily. They're not on this list, but I think they could be. Yeah. Oklahoma at 17. The Cincinnati number at the bottom, 22, jumped off the map because Texas isn't going to play Cincinnati this year. But Cincinnati plays Oklahoma. You mentioned it earlier today. That game's in September.
Yeah, first conference game for Cincinnati. Welcome to the Big 12. They host Oklahoma. Good news is they host, but yeah, they're hosting Oklahoma on September 23rd. Heck, September 9th, Ketch, the day we'll be focused on Texas, Bama, and A&M, Miami, and all that. Cincinnati goes to Pitt that day. So I'm not saying Pitt's a big power, but if they go get a win like that, if they go on the road and get a win over another Power 5 school, who knows what we're talking about. That is an interesting number for one of those new schools in the Big 12 we'll be watching. And now coaches have had to figure out how much they do. You just mentioned Jimbo. Another one that stands out to me in Texas, Ketch, is Aranda. Aranda's a guy that wasn't a portal guy, but he showed up at Big 12 Media Days this year and had to admit it and say, yeah, I was really kind of like, hey, there are guys and I'll develop our guys. He's now had to admit, no, I need to go find some guys in the offseason. We need to get some of those transfers and I'll turn them into Baylor guys. But he really has had to embrace that process.
Well, and look, I think even that is a nuanced conversation because Aranda doesn't win the Big 12 2 years ago without transfers. They beefed up that offensive line with a couple of starting offensive linemen. They did the same thing on the defensive line. You think about the big LSU transfer that comes in that ends up being an NFL player. So they did take transfers, but I think even then it's like, I think Aranda kind of had a Sarkisian mentality, which is if a starting level player from LSU wants to transfer, that's one thing. But I don't think he thought, I'm going to make my living off of recycled parts. I don't want the discarded trash, because there's a stigma that still comes with transfers, right? Not good enough to play at the school they were at. Maybe there's just all these little things, stigmas that I think still go with transfers. Then you got some guys like Bear Alexander, who's at Georgia. And I think Bear got his payday from Georgia, won a national championship ring, and then was like, I'm ready for another payday. And I can't even be mad at him, because whenever I see the pictures of him living in a penthouse in Los Angeles, who am I to say that he made the wrong decision? Maybe that's a hell of a way. I have a feeling. Here's the thing. I'm randomly throwing this out. If Johnny Manziel lives in the portal era, after he wins the Heisman and he has one season of eligibility remaining, does Johnny put his name into the portal and shop his wares?
I would just push that a year ahead. Let's say we saw everything we saw from the documentary last night. There was the thought of things were just too crazy and he had to go, right? He had to give the NFL a shot. So would he have gone then?
Is he the Alabama starting quarterback right now? Like in 2013, is Johnny Manziel starting at Alabama? Because if it was this year, you're like, God, Alabama took a transfer quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a part of me that thought, God, a decade later, and Johnny Manziel, first of all, I think the Aggies would have come up with $10 million to keep.
Right, exactly.
But maybe you don't get the full leverage of we talked about this with Colin Simmons yesterday. If a school's offering you $500,000 and you want $1 million, and another school offers you $1 million and you want 1.5, probably the school that's offering you $1 million is going to be the one that's going to get you to 1.5, but you got to make them feel like they got to get there. If you're Manziel and you lived in the portal and you wanted $10 million, A&M could be bidding against themselves. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if Johnny Manziel had been like, I'm putting my name into the portal tomorrow, I feel like George Bush and all the people that showed up for his pro day would have been signing over their wills.
Oh, there's no doubt. No doubt. We've seen a Biletnikoff winner transfer. The next level might be, will we ever see a Heisman winner transfer the next year? But you're right. National champion. That floors me as like an older football fan. A national champion transferring? It just doesn't. I mean, A.D. Mitchell, obviously right now, with the Texas roster, that's normal now. And everybody's having to just kind of re-rack things. Obviously, we're going to have to see Ketch. Next year, we would all agree that 50 spot for Colorado, that probably doesn't happen to another. That may not happen for another team for a long time.
Maybe it happens next year.
But that's a specific circumstance of guy with Deion's rep coming from a very small school up to a Power 5 and all that's going on there. I don't know if that'll be a regular number. If that becomes regular, we got a different discussion. But from those others,
how many seniors are you taking?
Yeah, that's true. But from those others, it feels like we're looking at 2025 being a reasonable number, like you said, a full old recruiting class worth to come in to most programs where we'll just have to be paying attention to, whoa, look what Lane Kiffin just brought in. Whoa, look what Brian Kelly just did. Look what this guy just did. It's going to be wild to watch. It's a whole new version, right, of recruiting. But some of those numbers really surprise me.
Well, in Sarkisian at Texas, we've seen them go out and selectively get A.D. Mitchell. We've seen them go out and get Jalen Catalon, who, as of this moment, starting safety for the Longhorns. Whether that holds or not, whether he stays healthy, we don't know. But like right now, they've turned him loose. Even Sarkisian said the other day, he is fully. We're not holding him back. We're not trying to save wear and tear on the body, on the shoulder. So you got 2 guys. You brought in Gavin Holmes, but on the whole, Sarkisian doesn't go after the portal the way all these other schools have. And ultimately, it will come down to how this season ends. But there is a part of me that thinks, had they gone out and got 5 more guys, go out and get a linebacker to challenge David Benda for your starting linebacker position. Go out and find, well, you need someone. Colin Simmons is so important right now, in part because Texas hasn't really addressed the edge position. I mean, I can make a case that there are positions on this team that Texas could have gone after in the portal that they didn't, because they're doing this in the name of letting their young talent develop. They don't want to necessarily bring in a linebacker who's going to get in the way of Anthony Hill and the guys they just recruited. They don't necessarily They haven't gone after offensive linemen the last couple of years in the portal because Kyle Flood signed that huge offensive line class. And I think they haven't wanted to stunt the development of these players. You could certainly, I think there's more depth that they could have used. You know, Paxton brings up, they bring in a Trill Carter. I think they took a flyer on Trill Carter because they had a roster spot left. But I think there were better players than Trill Carter that they could have gone after had they decided earlier on. And I think one of the questions Sark has to ask himself, if you look at recruiting right now, I think 2 months ago, Texas thought they were going to take 25 high school prospects, and they still might. But when you look at it now, it's hard for me to figure out how they're going to get 25 high school guys unless late in the process they go after some kind of under-the-radar guys, some 3-star guys. And it has always been my contention, if you're Texas, you don't reach for 3-star guys. You let Texas Tech, SMU, or Georgia, or whomever, let them take these guys and develop them. You don't take the risk. Let someone else assume the risk. And if they turn out to be really good, you buy their ass in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Texas did with A.D. Mitchell. Yes, A.D. Mitchell had some family concerns that, you know, I believe he has a young child. Like, coming back to Texas made some real sense for him. But you know what else made a lot of sense? He's going to make more money, a lot more money at Texas through NIL than he was at Georgia. Period. And that's the weight that Texas can throw around in the portal. They literally took Georgia's number 1 wide receiver, a guy that Georgia fans would tell you that guy was going to be an all-SEC player this year. He's caught a touchdown in every playoff game he's ever played in. And that's, you know, well, and look, too broke to pay attention. I agree. It's not about quantity per se. It's not about taking 17 guys like Oklahoma, I think, feels like they were forced to. But it's also not about taking 3 or 4 guys either, right?
Yeah. Well, how many hits do you need, Ketch? What would Kirby Smart tell us today? Or what would Nick Saban tell us? How many transfer impacts do you need in a given year?
I mean, it just depends on your program, right? I mean, you look at what Alabama did. They get Jahmyr Gibbs through the portal. True. They addressed their left tackle position and getting Tyler Sheen, who ends up being an NFL drafted player. That guy's like a 3-year starter at Vanderbilt. They went out and got their starting running back. They went out and got their starting left tackle. They went into the portal and got receivers. They didn't all work out. Right. I mean,
this year there may be a quarterback. Maybe
this year they may be a quarterback.
Yeah.
I think if you're Texas, you should be going out and get like 7 or 8 guys a year. I think if you're taking 25 guys a year in recruiting on the average, maybe 15 to 18 are high school guys. And then the rest of them are portal guys that are proven. Because the thing, and look, somebody asked this question earlier, and this is a really good question. It does call out. So Jason asks, so Texas shouldn't have taken Warren Roberson, who was a 3-star guy, 4-star, a low 4-star, high 3-star player. I think I had him ranked as a 4-star maybe somewhere between 25 and 30 in the state. I think a guy like Robertson is on the borderline fence of this conversation. He's not a super blue chip player. So what that means, Chad, is that even though I have him rated as a 4-star guy, 75 to 80% of the time, a recruit historically with Warren Robertson's profile fails 75 to 80% of the time. So that means 4 out of 5 times. I always bring it up. It's like the crooked basketball rim at the fairgrounds. Yes, you can make that shot, but Steph Curry might need 5 shots to get one in. And the question is, if you're Texas, those guys also need more time. And Sam asks, it's a good question, Sam. Let me find your thing so I can actually click on it. Sam asks, can Ketch define fails? I do it I use the NFL draft metric because unless you're an anomaly, Poona Ford, Malcolm Brown, every once in a while there are these random guys that for whatever reason don't get drafted. They end up making the NFL, but more times than not, really good college players, the kind that win championships. I mean, if you're an SMU fan, you don't have to assume success the way that I do. But the reason why I use NFL draft is because it's not subjective. It's not my opinion to say that a guy was really good. The NFL draft, no opinions needed. It either happened or it didn't happen. So 75 to 80% of the time, players at that of Warren Roberson's ranking don't end up being NFL drafted players. And that's a lot. It's a huge 4 out of 5 times that guy fails. And I'm of the opinion, don't take that guy in recruiting. Let Warren Roberson go to Texas Tech. If he balls out, take him 2 years later.An I don't mean that. And Warren Roberson's a borderline guy. You could actually absolutely justify taking him. He's a really good player. He's on the cutoff of where I think Texas should and shouldn't be taking guys in recruiting. You can justify it, but I also think you need to leave room. And look, Paxton, this is what people do. Hold on. You'll say, wasn't Jalen Ford a 3-star? Yes, he was. But Jalen Ford's still a 1 out of 10. You can't just point to the guys that hit. You can't do the Zach Thomas thing. Well, hey, Zach Thomas is a 5'10" white linebacker who can't run real fast. My kid can do that. He can be Zach. No, he can't. Can't automatically be Zach Thomas. 19 out of 20 Zach Thomases fail. Kind of the same thing with Jalen Ford. The cool thing with Jalen Ford is that it worked out.
Right.
Jalen Ford, Texas hit there. But the math suggests that 9 out of 10 times Jalen Ford doesn't hit. And what you can't do is look at Jalen Ford hitting and then suddenly think, well, we'll get the next 10 right. The math suggests, actually, if you take 10 more Jalen Fords with Ford's profile, they'll all miss. You got the hit. The math says the next 9 are going to miss. And, I live in a world where I think Texas needs to be trying to get the math to work. College football, man, is divided by slim margins. Slim margins to win a game or two on your schedule. Slim margins determine who gets into the playoff or not. Slim margins are going to determine 12th place next year in the playoff, Chad, and 30. The difference between the number 12th ranked team and the number 30 team next year in college football might be one game. It might be one coin flip game that didn't go your way, and the difference between that 8-4 and that big win and being 9-3 and in the consideration might be a play. I mean, that's what I think that's why the sport's about to be more fun than it's ever been before. Because we're going to watch games between 22 and 25, and we're going to be like, the winner of that game puts themselves in the conversation
Yeah, we're going to watch teams. Right. We're going to watch teams.
They're ranked 15th.
Yes. Yeah. We're going to watch teams trying to get into the 12, into the back end of the 12. You're going to have teams fighting for the right to host a playoff game instead of being on the road. And you're going to have them fighting for the right to get up into the top 4 to get that bye. And to anyone who says that the college football playoff expanding is going to make it less interesting, I would just say, just watch. Just watch.
So on the transfer front, I would take 5 less risks per year, and I would take 5 more less risky, a little more proven players. Look, whatever we think of Trill Carter, the transfer from Minnesota, the difference between him and another 3-star or low 4-star that they could have taken last year is that Trill Carter's going to play this year. Trill Carter shows up day one. He's fighting for snaps in the rotation. He makes an immediate impact on this year's team, which is competing for a Big 12 championship. The reality is the majority of low 4 stars, 3 stars, guys that arrive with these kind of miss rates, those guys are more likely than not never going to make an impact. Yeah. And it's the likely to never make an impact are the kind of prospects I would lean less on if you're Texas. And I think in the next 10 years, we will see the planning evolve over time.
All right, top of the hour. We've crossed the 1 o'clock mark on House Divided on this beautiful Wednesday. Ketch, you want to break here? You want to hit buy or sell and go?
Look, let's take a break now because when we come back, it'll be buy or sell and Kieran like back to back, and we'll probably just roll right through that.
All right, let's do it. All right, we'll hit the old break here. House Divided, Orangebloods live. We will be back after some recruiting magic.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback takes a look at a player that was the first commitment of the TCU class of 2020 and became the last signee of the Texas 2020 recruiting class with a little stopover in Waco in between. That's right, Texas senior defensive back Jahdae Barron had one hell of a recruitment before eventually developing into one of the most important remaining players from a somewhat disastrous 2020 recruiting class. For those that might not remember, Barron finished as a mid 3-star prospect in the Rivals.com rankings while finishing 79th in the state and 72nd in the country as a cornerback. Should note for the record that I had Barron ranked as a 4-star prospect in my rankings and the number 30 overall prospect in the state. When we look at his recruitment, things really started to heat up following a junior day visit in February of 2019 to TCU and Gary Patterson. After visiting on the junior day in February, Barron committed just a couple of weeks later, citing that Patterson's track record of developing players was a big reason for his decision. Yet a little more than a month later, Barron backed out of his commitment to Patterson, primarily because his offer list started to take off shortly after his commitment, with the likes of Oklahoma State, Tennessee, and Arizona jumping into the mix. Before his decommitment, he actually took an unofficial visit to the 40 acres, although the Longhorns didn't offer. Fast forward to June 22nd, and Barron announced his commitment to Baylor. From that moment on, all the way through the rest of signing day, Barron was solid as a rock to the Bears, even in the aftermath of the departure of Baylor head coach Matt Rule. Things changed for Barron in April as he asked for Baylor to release him from his national letter of intent. Quote, "Thank you to the Baylor Nation for embracing me," he said on Twitter. "Today, I requested an official release from my NLI to Baylor and will begin looking for a new school to pursue my athletic dreams and career goals." 8 days later, Barron committed to Tom Herman's Texas Longhorns. Flipping Barron was a huge win for defensive backs coach Jay Valai, who had only been in Austin for a few months when he landed Barron. Barron was the 20th and final signee to a 2020 recruiting class that finished 16th in the nation. While Bijan Robinson is famously remembered as the headliner of the class, Barron was one of the 3 lowest rated prospects in the entire group, according to Rivals.com. Of the 2 players ranked lower than Barron, one of them was none other than All-America linebacker Jalen Ford.
Into the 1 o'clock hour on House Divided. Geoff Ketchum, I have some good news for you. Are you ready?
Yes.
You've gained a couple of viewers in the last few minutes that you're not going to see in your metrics. A few minutes ago, out of my peripheral vision this way, I see my father with no shirt on walking around, and I thought, is he about to come on the show with no shirt? What's happening? He sits down, and my mother starts to cut his hair. My mom is my dad's barber and has been for years. It's part of their relationship. We all don't talk about it much. But they decided to come into this room because all they were hearing was me. They wanted to hear the full conversation. So they want to hear you. So you have gained some new viewers. And my theory is my mother is concerned that if my father's going to be on this show at all, he needs to have a fresh haircut. So she's cutting his hair as we speak.
He's not getting the Chad Hastings special, is he?
No, he doesn't go with the Chad. No, he's got hair. No, he's got the full thing. This is where hopefully the argument for my hairline will be solidified when you see my father's hairline. So I'm just letting you know, if you decide you want a Doc Hastings appearance, you're going to get about as fresh a Doc Hastings as possible.
But maybe shirtless.
Not shirtless. I will make him wear a shirt. Not shirtless.
Because it would just be ironic given the conversation from earlier.
That's what was ironic. We were talking about you without a shirt, and I look up and I see my dad without a shirt, and I thought I was being punked for a second.
By the way, when we first were talking about doing the show, we'll pull the curtain back real quick before we go into buy or sell. Chad was worried, like, I got this thing where I think I need to go. I'm going to be going to see my parents, and like, I don't know if we can do that first Wednesday. Should we wait? Because I'm going to be out of town. Now we're like halfway through the week. You've been doing the show with maps behind you and, you're home. Does it feel all right? Like, this is the experience I was telling you. Is like, you can do your work anywhere.
Yeah, it's been very cool. It's been very cool. This is like show 6, I believe. And it's been a whole lot of fun doing the show and then, going to see a movie or doing the show. And I'm like in the environment I need to be in. It's very, very cool. So that has been a lot. At some point,
you need to get a beer and you need to drink a beer out of the A&M beer thing. While you're working to really just set it off like it's a brand new world that you're living in.
It could happen. It could happen. And I have, just as a preview, before we get into Manziel talk at 2, I have another beer jug that I will debut on the show. I'll show you another beer jug at 2, and then we'll get into the Manziel talk. All right. So
real quick, let's not pretend that we haven't worked with guys that have sipped on a beverage or two.
Sipped. Sipped. You're adorable to use the word sipped. That was fantastic. All right. There have been a few. Yes. Radio and alcohol definitely went together. We'll be a little more obvious about it with YouTube and alcohol. All right. So buy or sell time. You want to go first or second today?
I'll go first.
Hit it.
Buy or sell number 1. This one's dedicated to Old Man Hastings.
Okay.
Old Man Hastings shed a tear last night over watching the Manziel doc.
I'm going to say sell. I don't think there were tears involved. He enjoyed it. He enjoyed it going back down memory lane and remembering that win in Tuscaloosa and stuff like that. But I don't think there was an actual tear.
I can't wait to talk to you about the Manziel doc at the top.
Oh, it was something. It was something else.
Buy or sell number 2. After all of this, Colin Simmons better be good.
Capital B, buy. That's part of the pressure of this world. Whatever color he's wearing, everybody needs to know who he is. Absolutely. The fan bases will both expect something to be there. He needs to live up to it, and he needs to make either LSU or Texas or Miami or all, 2 of those 3 need to be really upset they didn't get him. Like halfway through that first year, certainly into the second year, you need to feel that. Absolutely.
It was impossible not to watch Johnny Manziel's doc on Netflix and not think a little bit about the Colin Simmons recruitment. I watched the way the fans were reacting when they beat Alabama, and it was just overwhelming. And I wondered what it would be like to be 17 right now and be getting ready to make really what's the first major life decision of your life, and all of the extras that come with it when you are Colin Simmons. It's just
absolutely.
You're picking your color. Never completely know what that kid's going through right now.
Yeah, you're picking your color, your culture, your town, whatever. And there's transfers available, I know, but right now you're thinking of where do I want to be and make my name and all that stuff. Yeah, it's crazy.
Kind of a random buy or sell question, but that's what we do here.
Okay.
Buy or sell. There's nothing wrong with an old-fashioned Twinkie, but for you, a honey bun is better every day of the week and twice on Sundays.
Yeah, that's a buy. A Twinkie is a specialized item. It's like cotton candy to me. I'll have it like once a year, twice a year for nostalgia. I'm not doing that every day. Honey bun, a bit of an everyday working man kind of thing. Yes, absolutely.
Buy or sell number 4. If I took you back in time in the hot tub time machine to see a live show, you're choosing the Rolling Stones over Guns N' Roses if both are in their primes.
Yeah, that's a buy. That's a buy because the Guns N' Roses prime involves a lot of weird politics. And do you get which Axl do I get? Even if I'm getting a smashed out Mick and a completely fried out Keith, you could still. I'm going to guess that show is probably still more consistent than what the Stone or what Guns N' Roses is going to give you. So yeah, during that big 3 album run for the Stones, you put me right into that spot. Yes, that's where I want to be. I'd rather see the Stones.
And my final buy or sell question is sticking with prime on prime. We haven't done any prime on primes since you and I have been back together. Prime on prime, Raquel Welch, greater than Britney Spears in both their primes.
Oh yeah, that's a buy. And not it's not a dogging of Britney. You're just celebrating Raquel Welch. That's just a different level. The way she carried everything, the way she presented everything, the way it all. You got to go Raquel Welch. Even Britney Spears, I think, would agree with me on that one. Absolutely.
I just know that Britney in her prime, way back in like she's hanging out in Baton Rouge days.
Yeah, but dude, Britney in her prime, the amazing conversation you might have with her, it might last 3 sentences. For Welch, it might last 3 days.
Matt Norgren once told me a story that when he took his official visit to LSU, that he saw Britney Spears on his visit to LSU, and that was almost enough, right? Like he picks Texas, he wins a national championship ring, but the lure of Britney on campus was almost too much to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, like, who's more strikingly hot in an instant? Maybe Britney, but who's more hot overall? It's Welch every time.
Fair enough. Your turn. Buy or sell.
All right, here we go, Ketch. Buy or sell. The SEC should not add any teams. Stay at 16.
Sell. I would add Clemson and Florida State.
Oof, man.
I mean,
wow. When you say it that way, you might even get me to agree.
I mean, I'm not messing with this other riffraff, but at Clemson and Florida State, which are really, that's the ACC. You know, that's taking Texas and Oklahoma away from the Big 12 to take Clemson and Florida State away from the, and the other thing is, you don't want to let them go to the Big 10.
Yeah, I just don't want to see these conferences all get ripped apart. I like Clemson.
I got no love for the ACC other than basketball. And you know what? Clemson and Florida State don't matter in ACC basketball.
All right, fine. Buy or sell number 2, Ketch. You agree with Brett McMurphy that Texas Tech should be ranked ahead of Texas.
Sell. There's not a player on Texas Tech roster that I would take over a player on the Texas roster.
And for the record, folks, 9 slots for Brett McMurphy. He's got Tech at 11 and Texas at 20.
Well, and he also, it would seem like, thinks that the Big 12 is going to be freaking wild. Because you got Tech at 11, I guess that means you think they're 9-3-ish.
Oh, yeah, he thinks Tech's going to be good, obviously. He thinks
but if he thought they're going to be really good, he'd have them higher than that. Like, he clearly thinks that Tech's going to be the best in the Big 12, but maybe with 3 losses or 2, maybe 2 or 3.
He's got Tech winning 8 games easy. Like,
if Texas finishes 20th in the regular season, that means they went 8-4.
Right, exactly. He's kicking Texas down below that 9 spot, and he may be saying Tech's up there at the 9. That's interesting. All right, Ketch, buy or sell number 3. As a Cowboys fan, that night, you wanted him to draft Johnny.
Sell. And one of the cool things about the documentary was that they drafted Zach Martin.
Yes, they did.
So you don't watch the documentary and then wish they changed it. You watch the documentary if you're a Cowboys fan and you go, oh, yeah, no, that worked out.
things smart football people do. Make that pick at that moment.
And you know what? Nobody from Johnny's camp said a goddamn word about Zach Martin. Nobody 10 years later was like, they should have taken me. We would have saved it. It's like, no, they took a Hall of Famer. Maybe it worked out for them.
Yeah. The agent didn't look into the camera and say, how'd that work for you, Cowboy? Yeah, that didn't happen.
That guy would have. If they'd taken Buster Brown with that slot and he flames out, that manager would have been like, and the Cowboys haven't been to the Super Bowl since. And Johnny would have, and instead it was like, the Dallas Cowboys select Zach Martin, offensive lineman from Notre Dame. And it was like, privately, I was like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I was too. Deep down, I did.
Good job, Steven.
Yep, I was glad. I was glad they made the football choice too. All right, buy or sell number 4, Ketch. You agree with Johnny Manziel. No matter which NFL team took him, he was going to crumble.
That dude wasn't watching film. That dude wasn't going to the Colts and like, oh, send me the iPad. I'm ready.
You realize if he'd have been a Cowboy, it could have been way worse. Think about that for a second.
Would not could have.
If he'd have become a Cowboy, whatever fire he created in Cleveland would have looked like nothing.
Imagine the Dallas media covering a quarterback that won't watch film, Chad.
Can you imagine how many questions Randy Galloway would have asked Johnny Manziel that would have broke the internet? I mean, can you imagine? Good grief. Dale Hansen? Can you imagine what Dale Hansen would have done with Johnny Manziel as a Cowboy?
Dale would have lost his mind.
Oh, Dale Hansen would have, oh my Lord. We'd have had to have Dale like live from a hospital bed because he had strokes every day over Johnny. All right, and finally, buy or sell number 5, Ketch. You watched episode 1 of Hard Knocks and you're in.
Sell. I got to choose. Look, today is the first day of the twins being in the 4th grade.
Oh, way to go. Look at that.
So I got to watch, by the way, you know what I realized today while dropping my kids off at the 4th grade?
That you're the best father ever?
Well, I am that.
Yeah.
I do love these elementary school moms, Chad. I get older, they stay the same age. I was like, let me see this crop of 1st grade moms today. Oh, okay.
I'm so glad you added the word moms. Thank you so much for that.
Well, no, the moms is a key portion of the statement, Chad.
Yes.
I don't want to go to jail today.
That was key. Good job.
I want to interview. I want to talk to Kieran about the Longhorns. I don't want like a police ambush.
Yes.
Because I'm over. Yeah. No.
Yes.
So, you know.
Exactly.
I don't even know what else.
I don't either.
No. Last question was.
I don't know how to transition that. I have no idea. Look at Paxton saying almost Kieran time. This is big time, Ketch. I feel like there's a cloud of anticipation in the air because you know about this guy and the folks know about this guy and I'm learning about this. I feel like this is about to be, a powder keg of excitement right here.
Thing is, Kieran's a man of the people.
Oh, I like men of the people.
He in the old days, he would have been the Rock. He'd be the people's champ.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
no pressure.
He used to be a part of Orangebloods.com's OB Live platform, but he's out there chasing the dream, trying to become bigger than you and I could have ever dreamed of.
Mm-hmm.
He's still good enough to give us a little bit of time joining us right here on the show. Bring him on in. Kieran is back, baby.
What's going on, guys? How y'all doing?
How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing great. I'm up in the north now, living the New York life. So it's been interesting. It's been cool.
NYC, like NYC proper?
Brooklyn. So I'm like NYC area, but I'm in downtown Brooklyn, right by the Barclays Center. So yeah, it's been crazy. I'm excited to talk some Longhorns football though. It's almost that time, guys. It's almost that time.
It is. Look, Kieran, I was thinking about last night. I was like, okay, we are 25 hours away from Colin Simmons announcing. We're in the middle of Longhorn camp. I was like, would Kieran say the word playoff out loud?
Oh, 100% I would.
That's what I want to know. Before we get to anything else, are we going to hear the P word when we talk about your expectations for this team?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's really where I'm at. I'm a big guy on Kool-Aid, and this year I think I'm probably taking the biggest sip that I possibly could. I'm so unbelievably confident in this team. It's very scary for me because I don't know if I can, like, if they let me down this year, I don't think there's a level of commitment that I have that's possibly more towards this football team. So it'd be pretty tough to get back on the bandwagon next season if it didn't happen. But man, like this offseason, I'm all in. I think there's not a team on the schedule that really I should be beating this team. I'm being dead serious. I think 12-0 is like really what the expectation for this team, given the 3 years of roster building that Sarkisian's had, the talent, and now more importantly the experience that's on the roster. So yeah, no, I'm definitely sipping the Kool-Aid. Playoffs is definitely in my vernacular this football season. 100%.
Wow.
Playoffs.
Playoff. So wait,
Playoffs.
let me understand here, Kieran. I was going to ask you for your prediction right up top. I'm hearing that 12-0 idea. If I send you to the window in Vegas, and you're betting your own money, how many wins are you willing to tell me I can bet on for sure? Where is your comfort level sitting? Are you telling me it's 10 just waking up, no problem?
Yes. I think a surefire bet would be 10 wins. What my honest season prediction would be is 11-1. I think it's still a team that has to learn how to win in that regard. But
they have to learn how to win one.
They have to learn. They learn.
Right? The others, they just smash people. One, they'll be taught a lesson.
It's very true. Very true. So, yeah, I think that's the thing. It's just I think this is a 10-win football team. I think it has 10-win football team written all over it. It's very, very quarterback dependent. But, bruh, like, this team is crazy loaded right now. It's the depth, and also, like I said, it's the experience. I'm going 10 wins as a surefire bet. My prediction would be 11-1, but it would not surprise me in the least to see this team have a jump like a 2020 Bama did, or a 2019 LSU. I'm dead. I think this team is that special.
And real quick, Ketch, before you jump back in, does that 11-1 include a win in Tuscaloosa in your mind? Or is the one Tuscaloosa?
No, I think we win in Tuscaloosa.
There you go.
Actually, as a matter of fact, I think we win by double digits in Tuscaloosa.
Oh, now we're getting
so
look, in August. Let's do it.
Okay, this is what I'm telling you, right? I think if you look at what's going on in Alabama right now, they are getting the benefit of the doubt like no other team ever because they have the GOAT, which I completely understand. Nick Saban is Nick Saban. But if you look at any other team who just had their worst season in years, keep in mind, last year we were saying about Alabama, this is the most talented roster they have ever had. They lose a large portion of their impact players on that very talented roster. And they were expected to be the national champions and run through everybody last year. That didn't happen. Now they lost a bunch of those players. And yes, they are still unbelievably talented. I think on the defense, they're going to be nasty, right? But if you look at any other team that loses their superstar quarterback, the best quarterback in the history of Alabama football, in my honest opinion, and they lose both of their play callers on both sides of the ball, and they're implementing a new system, and they're going to have to start new players at close to double-digit positions. Any other team, you'd be saying this is a rebuilding year. But because it's Bama, a team that's been built up like Texas comes in there, and they're still saying we're a touchdown underdog. I don't see it that way. I think they get the benefit of the doubt because it's Nick Saban, and that's why.
God love you, Kieran. You know what I wish? I wish I could just bring you with me everywhere. So when my cynicism kicks in,
yes,
when I'm like, the Big 12 is going to screw them out of a game, and that there's a Grant Taft, and you're too young to know about that, but there's a Grant Taft going away game where they just get like the Montreal screw job kind of a deal. I wish I had you with me to be like, cover my mouth up and just go, Texas has too much talent, and they're going to kick Alabama's ass, and 11-1, and maybe the playoff. And I feel like I would be so much more popular if I had the energy and the confidence that Kieran had that I haven't had. And here's what I want to ask you. You surely didn't feel this way the last time you saw this team play against Washington. Do you remember your Alamo Bowl vibe?
Yeah. I think the Alamo Bowl, it raised the same questions that I have coming into the season this year that I think the coaching staff is going to address. One, it was the big question going into the Alamo Bowl is, okay, will we see development at the quarterback position given the fact that he has time to really work on his game, go through his progressions, fix the mistakes that he's shown over the course of the season. Quinn Ewers looked like he improved. Second big question I had was, what is this running back room going to look like without Bijan and Roschon? And that's still a question that I have coming into the season. I think they found out in that game, Keelan Robinson's not going to be the go-to running back. Obviously, Jonathan Brooks was dealing with an injury, which is why I think he probably had less carries in that game. But I think coming into this year, I think the coaching staff's very confident in Jonathan Brooks and possibly C4 getting some serious action in this season, right? And then the other question I had was, how do you replace DeMarvion Overshown? Because I feel like he had one of the most underrated seasons as a linebacker in the past 10 years last year. He did all of the dirty work. I know Jalen Ford got a lot of the praise, but DeMarvion Overshown was special last year at the linebacker position. How do you replace him? I think that's one of the big questions coming into the season. But after the Washington game, I felt confident simply because last year, I think with better quarterback play, you're in the position to win every single game you played last season. Like if you play better at the quarterback position, you probably beat TCU. You probably beat Oklahoma State. You probably beat Alabama like in that second half. You missed some throws, and I don't even really think that was like Hudson Card's fault, but you get what I'm saying. Like I feel like you were in position to win a lot of those games with better quarterback play.
So Kieran, was there a point in the offseason where, because I'm with you, I'm with you. So where in this offseason was there an epiphany where you were like what's the moment that put you into, we should win every game on the schedule, and if I'm going on the record, I'll say 11-1. What happened?
I would say the additions of A.D. Mitchell, getting Anthony Hill to be a part of this class. I think you can move him around. And if it's not Anthony Hill at the inside linebacker position, you have a fourth-year guy in David Benda, who I think the coaching staff, especially Geoff Choate, has been capable of developing players, right? My thing is, this offseason, I look around the Big 12, and I have a very popular video, Ketch, where I say in this video, the Big 12 looks like a bunch of B words to me. And this year again, I'm so sorry. They look like the Big 12 looks like a bunch of bitches to me again. Wow. They do. I'm sorry. I'm not scared of this conference. They're lucky they added all these teams and the Pac-12 fell apart. Otherwise, they'd be playing their games on Bally Sports Southwest next season. And we all know this.
A couple of those teams bitch slapped you last year.
Hey, look. If you're saying those teams bitch slapped us by beating us by 7, us having bad performances because we didn't have the experience in key positions, sure, that's fine. It is what it is. They also got bitch slapped when they played another talented team in Georgia when they went out there to the national championship. Attendance. You know what I mean? So The thing is, I think Texas, from a talent perspective, we always have talent, right? But now we have the talent and the experience as well as the play calling. And to me, this is a make or break year, not just for Texas, not just for Texas football, not just for Quinn Ewers. Steve Sarkisian himself has to come out here and prove, am I a coach that's worthy of the praise and admiration that everybody gives him as a head coach, not just an offensive coordinator? Can you make adjustments later on in the game? And I like the fact that, I know you guys asked him at the press conference, and he essentially took it upon himself to be like, hey, us as a coaching staff, we need to get better in the third and fourth quarter of these games. We have to get way better at closing out. I feel like we took a step forward from 2021, which they did. And now I like the fact that he's kind of realizing, hey, that's another step that we need to take forward. And I love the additions of the Paul Christ and other guys that you have there as analysts that are going to help you in the aspects of the game that you need help on. So I don't know. I'm very confident coming into the season. I don't really think many of these teams have anything for us. The only ones I kind of get iffy about, obviously TCU comes to play us all the time. That's going to be a night game probably, and it's going to be in Fort Worth. That's going to be a tough scene, a tough environment. But we have so much talent. I don't even think we have to play our best games against half of these damn opponents. We are that talented. And having like I said about A.D. Mitchell, having this wide receiver room, having the amount of wide receiver weapons that you have with another year of development, you're not going to ask Xavier Worthy to be literally everything for you at the wide receiver position. If we stay healthy, I love this team's chances to run the table.
So Kieran joining us here. By the way, Kieran is at Care Bear Kieran on Twitter. Would you like to explain the Twitter handle? Because it's fantastic. Any particular reason? Are you a Care Bears guy? Was that your thing growing up? What is that?
No, not really a big Care Bear guy at all. So funny enough, I played golf in high school, and my coach just didn't ever know how to say my name. Shout out to Coach McQuaid. He never knew how to say my name, so he just started calling me Care Bear. That name stuck. And then when I was in high school, I made that name, ended up making content, blowing up. So now it's stuck with me ever since. So Care Bear's been the name.
That works. Hey, in terms of the running back group, you brought that up. That is a big question, obviously, in a lot of Longhorn fans' mind. How's it going to play out for you? Do you think there's going to be a guy that you're all going to be comfortable thinking, okay, go ahead and give him 20, coach, give him 20 carries, let's see how it goes? Or do you really think this is going to need to be a committee situation? Is there one guy that's blinking at you now, or do you think this is going to be a group effort?
I think it's going to be a running back by committee type situation, but I also think it's going to be in terms of carry split, pretty similar to what we saw last year with Bijan and Roschon. Not saying you're going to get the same production, but as far as I think that the two guys that in my mind are going to say Jonathan Brooks and C4, Cedric Baxter. I think those two guys are going to end up getting the bulk of the carries, and you're going to have Keelan Robinson be that guy that you get to, deploy out in some gadget type plays or hit him in the flats and use him as a receiver more this season, because last year he kind of really showed he's improved drastically as a receiver, catching the ball out of the backfield. So I think it's going to be a pretty good split between C4 and Jonathan Brooks. And I think even later on in the season, people are going to be looking at Cedric Baxter as like, oh, he's this next up guy. Everything that I'm hearing, he's one of Shar Choice's favorite guys. I'm really excited to see him. And another thing too, if you guys haven't seen Cedric Baxter in person, I'm a large human being. I'm 6'3", 275 pounds. Cedric Baxter's like looking me eye to eye, like just staring at my soul. I'm like, dog, you are huge. Like I would not want to be in the business tackling him. So I'm very excited to see what C4 can do out there.
Yep.
Kieran, now that you brought that up, I have back-to-back questions. I have to ask you about the Tyreek Hill exhibition. Chad, if you missed this,
yes,
our man Kieran tried to lock up Tyreek Hill man-on-man coverage.
Like literally? Like you actually got up there and tried to cover the man?
Yeah, it didn't go well. It looked so bad, it looked scripted, but I genuinely fell when he got me off the line.
Well, I was gonna say, if we were gonna go to the specific body part to get the story, would we need to talk to your right hip or your left hip as to which one failed the most in that one?
I mean, everything from waist down probably failed. The knees definitely. I tell everybody I got Rice Krispie knees. It sounds like just like paper crackling every time I've been doing so. Okay. Yeah, no, it was tough. There's another one coming too soon. Next month there's gonna be a video dropping of me racing in a 40 against Justin Fields with a 10-yard head start, and I'm very sad to say I didn't win that race. So yeah.
Is it like that thing at the Braves game where they had the dude in the suit chase you down?
It's much worse. Yes, much worse.
Than that? Okay.
Yes.
A big George Washington ran past him, Chad.
Yeah, exactly.
Giant head. The other question I was going to ask you, okay, it's the Rice game, opening game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to allow you you can be a genie. I want you to pick any freshman in this recruiting class that you can give a spectacular play to on day one. So it could be an Arch Manning 80-yard touchdown pass. It could be Baxter. It could be Jonte Cook. It could be Anthony Hill. It could be Malik Muhammad. You can create the opening game introduction play of any freshman on this recruiting class. Who do you want to see do something spectacular on day one so that you can be like, it's officially on, the Express is rolling?
Yeah, I would say, Paxton just said it in the chat, Jonte Cook. It's going to be Jonte Cook. I think Jonte's going to make a huge impact this season. And, as far as route running is concerned, I think he's going to be one of the best freshmen that we've seen in terms of what he's actually capable of doing, and the fact that Sark already trusts him enough to be able to, hey, we can move him around everywhere. He's kind of like Worthy in that sense. We can have him in the slot, the outside. In that Rice game, Jonte's going to catch a ball over the middle, juke the living hell out of a poor, smart, young individual, and he's going to house that thing from 75 yards away. Yeah.
4.0 is never going to look so bad as what Jonte Cook will do to it in that opening game.
Yeah, no, the speed difference is going to be crazy. I've always said this too. If you got north of a 3.5, you probably can't run too fast. So, it's
4.0 is going to have a tough time catching 10.2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's big. That is big time. All right, Kieran. So obviously a high level of concern, or excuse me, a high level of confidence with you for Texas.
Yeah.
Give me a thought about my Texas A&M Aggies. I'm an Aggie. Ketch has been nice enough to make me a part of the show again. We're bringing things together. It's the house divided. I hear how positive you are for Texas. Give me your opinions on A&M. Are you just a 100% hater all day long with the Aggies? Yeah. Where do you fall on them?
I mean, well, I hope you guys lose every game on the roster, or on the schedule. I mean, like, I'm not gonna lie to you, but I will say this. I will say this though.
He would enjoy that, Chad.
I would enjoy that very much.
Dude, we schedule a game in November that if nothing else, we're supposed to get that. Can I have 1-11, please?
I mean, hey, Appalachian State went to your house and took your candy last year, so I don't know. I can't trust you. But
we're trying to rebound from the App State thing. All right, they
are.
Okay, hey, we had a Kansas chip to get off our shoulders, so I completely get it.
I got you. But are you excited the game's coming back? Are you?
I'm 100% excited the game's coming back. And actually, I was gonna say this too. I think A&M. To me, it's very dependent on how much access does Jimbo want to allow Petrino to get to his baby. He loves that offense so much, and the thing is, I kind of likened it to the Tom Herman type situation, right? Is Tom Herman it's like when Tom Herman hired Yurcich, right? Is he gonna let Petrino come in and really just take over this offense and kind of take his hands off of it, or is he going to have his hands all over it? Because whenever we saw Yurcich come in with Texas, it was like, you're still going to run 11 personnel. We're still going to be an inside zone pace team. We're still going to be doing this and this and that. And it's all the Tom Herman isms. You know what I mean? It just wasn't really Mike Yurcich's like true offense. My thing is, how much does he want to give up to Petrino? That's going to be what happens. I mean, that's going to determine whether they do well or not. But I'll say this too. I'm very, very high on Wegman. I'm very high on Evan Stewart. I think he's one of the most talented wide receivers in the country. I think he's a first rounder all day. And if he's not, you guys have failed him miserably. And Agreed. You guys have talent. Reuben Owens, I feel like, honestly, even with us getting C4 last year, I felt like Reuben Owens was the #1 running back in the country. He's an unbelievable pass catcher. He's unbelievably good in short space. He's a really, really tough runner. You guys have so much talent. I feel like it should be a good season for you guys. It should be an 8-4, which isn't a bad season for A&M in this regard. Next year, I think there is going to be a year for them to really come out and shine with all the D-line talent that they have maturing and getting into their upperclassmanhood or whatever. I think I think A&M could actually have a pretty solid couple of seasons, but it's very, very, very dependent on Jimbo taking a step back.
Yeah.
Be the GM.
Fair. I was about to ask a Colin Simmons question to end this, but I'll just real quick, a baby question.
Mm-hmm.
If A&M goes 8-4 and Texas goes 11-1, Evan Stewart transfers to Texas next offseason, right?
Damn.
Oh,
wow.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, like
you see the smile on his face when he said that.
So okay, it depends on what Evan's season looks like, but the thing is, like, if A&M goes 8-4 next year, they are locked in with Jimbo though. I think they're trying to make this be like the Jim Harbaugh type thing, where it's just like, we're gonna ride through your bad years and hopefully it turns good because you can recruit your ass off. But yeah, no, I think Evan dips. I thought Evan was gonna dip this year.
A lot of people did.
Yeah, I thought Evan was gonna be gone this year, and I think he's definitely transferring. If not Texas, I could see him going somewhere else. He could go to, say Garrett Riley wants to stay another year at Clemson. He could go out there. He could go to USC and be a problem after Singer and them leave. He could come to Texas and play his ass off too. So
it's also huge, Kieran, to what you just said about that offense. Bobby Petrino's job this year, to me, is to make sure that Evan Stewart says good things about the Aggie offense moving forward. Because when badasses ask Evan Stewart, what's it like to play in this offense, that report needs to be good. That report needs to be positive for A&M, because otherwise you may be right. And Evan Stewart, if he starts looking elsewhere, obviously that's bad for A&M. That's a huge job for Petrino this year.
Your offensive identity is based around Wegman and Stewart. If any of those two guys start faltering, it's like, well, like what are we doing now? It kind of takes all the air out of the room over there. So yeah, I'd say that too. And also, Ketch, man, 9-3 stuff, man. We got to stop. We got to stop, man. You're upsetting the whole internet.
He's on you for 9-3, Ketch. It's like you're saying they're going 4-8. How dare you?
It's essentially the same thing. 9-3. Because the thing is, look, if we go,
but I got 9-3 in the Big 12 championship game.
By the way, Kieran, let me tell you, as a fan of a team that went 5-7 last year, it is not 9-3. I'll just tell you that for sure.
Mm.
I just don't believe in Sark yet.
I get that. This is his prove it year. And if there's ever a team and a schedule for him to prove it, it is now. It is now.
So
this is his make or break year.
Tomorrow. Remind me, you are from Duncanville, but you didn't go to Duncanville High School, right?
I did go to Duncanville High School. I went to born in Fort Worth until I was 3, raised in Duncanville ever since. So yeah, I'm
this is
Duncanville through and
for you
through.
tomorrow. Colin Simmons
100%.
has got to make this right.
100%. I'm upset Caden's not on the team. I love Christian Clark and I love Jarek. They're both very, very talented backs. I'm upset we didn't really recruit Caden too much, but it is what it is. I'm excited for Caden. I know where he's going to end up too, and I'm really excited for that. But yeah, no, the Colin thing is personal. I think it's going to be a recruiting battle all the way till December, like everybody's been saying. But I know you were saying like Colin Simmons better be this good. He's going to step on campus. I don't care what happens in terms of development over this next season with every edge in that room. I think he's going to be the best pass rusher in that room as soon as he steps on campus. He has that much explosiveness off the edge. I think against the run is going to be a little bit. It's going to be a bit of a test just because he's not the longest player. I think he's like a legit 6'1 3/4, 6'2", somewhere around there. But as far as getting to the quarterback, we haven't had a double-digit sack season since 2013. It was Jackson Jeffcoat.
God, I think so.
Yeah, we haven't had a double-digit sack season in almost 10 years. The most since then was Charles Omenihu, which is 9.5, and we haven't had a guy have more than 6 sacks since Charlie Strong was the head coach at the University of Texas. I think Colin Simmons is going to step in. I think he's going to play early, and I think he's going to be an absolute problem for every quarterback that we face in the SEC.
So, Kieran, real quick, if you were the Colin Simmons level guy, you're 5-star, you become known for videos people love, moments, you create those moments. If you were going to announce your commitment like he's doing tomorrow, how would you do it? Hats,
question.
Fireworks, signs, billboards, a video with you and Tyreek Hill playing backgammon. What would you do?
So I want the shock factor. There's a kid there. Okay, so there's a kid that I know. He's committing here pretty soon. And we were talking to him about his commitment video, and I would do exactly what he did. He wanted to jump out of a plane, and the parachute revealed which team he was going he was going to commit to, which would be sick. I think that would get reposted everywhere. I would 100% do that. I think that's the coolest idea.
Ketch may remember this. There was a kid a few years ago that did almost that. They had a jumping out of a plane. He does the skydiving, and they had the logos in the sky floating with him. He was flying through all the logos that didn't win, and he landed on the logo that did. I think he went to Ole Miss.
That's sick.
He flew through all the other logos, and he lands on the Ole Miss logo and then pulls the shirt open, and it says Ole Miss. It was fantastic.
Yeah. No, it'd be something like that. It had to be something with crazy shock value. That would be my thing for sure.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So, Chad, now you know why we brought Kieran on, right?
Absolutely. Fantastic. Other than the fact that he's a little down on the Longhorns this year. I'm not sure why y'all brought him on. That one game, I mean, come on. He didn't come on and just pound the 12-0. I couldn't believe it.
I said it last year, 11-1 at worst, I was being funny then. I said 8-4 last year and I was correct. I said 8-4. I did say 8-4 last year and I was correct. So we'll see what happens.
Kieran, I'm circling back. I'm not gonna waste a bullet in the chamber for Rice. But I'm gonna circle back around the week of the Alabama game.
Yeah.
And let's hook it back up again because I don't think there will be anybody I want to hear from more that week than you. So just be prepared. Yeah. I'll drop in from time to time. I'll slide into the DMs to see how you're doing.
I will dial in shit-faced from Tuscaloosa, Alabama the night after we beat them by double digits. And I'm telling you, I'm talking my talk then. And you're going to get that 9-3 smoke, Geoff. I hope you know that.
Hey,
I hope you know that.
If that happens, I want that smoke so bad.
Yeah.
So bad.
It's time, Geoff. It's time.
That's what I want for Christmas. I've already gone and sat on Santa's lap in June and said, forget about December, 12-0, 11-1. Anything that feels like Texas is headed to the stratosphere, Orangebloods is on fire in a good way, the channel's hopping. It's when they go 8-4 and 9-3 or 2 years ago where it's like hard to grow when you're in the middle of a 6-game losing streak. So trust me, literally a 5-7 season killed NIL deals that I did 2 years ago. Xavier Worthy didn't want to finish the year because the football is so bad. I want to be wrong. I want to bring you on, and I want to be like, Kieran, I have to give over the show to you. I'm on show suspension. Yeah. That's how badly I want it.
I'll take it for a week. I mean, honestly, if I'm being serious, I don't think you deserve to be on camera for that week after Alabama if we win. I'm just being honest.
I haven't volunteered for a suspension since my Ole Miss tweet in 2014. Guys, Kieran, we appreciate it, my man. Continue. I will be hitting save me the trouble. How soon do we get the Justin Fields video? Program
first week. So yeah, first week of September. Shout out to Justin, great dude. Just signed a big contract with Reebok. He's like the face of Reebok now, so I'm really excited for him. But yeah, first week of September, you'll get to see.
Can't wait. Kieran, have a good rest of the week, man. Enjoy Brooklyn. We'll talk soon.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Kieran.
Brooklyn in the house, Chad.
How about that? Very cool, man. That was very, very cool. Interesting. Not just the prediction of the win in Tuscaloosa. I'm glad I asked, but a double-digit prediction in Tuscaloosa. As someone that's a fan of a team that I've gotten to see beat Alabama twice, once there and once at home, don't worry about the double-digit part. Just beat them. Just find a way to beat them. I wouldn't worry about making it look. Nobody's ever said during the Nick Saban era, you know what mattered? How they beat Alabama. No. That's not how it starts. It's just that you beat Alabama. Do it however you can. Worry about that first. Worry about that part first.
About the best thing I can say about Kieran, he's still in the studio, so I want him to hear this. Our crowd spiked in a great way.
Heck yeah.
With him coming on in a way we've had big guests on since we've been on already. Kieran moved the needle more than anybody we've had on.
Look, the lesson Kieran just taught us is we should title every show 12-0, 11-1 minimum. The show should be called 11-1 minimum every day. When Blake asks us, what should the theme be, guys? Just that.
12-0.
11-1 minimum. Colin Simmons to Texas should be every day, all the time.
He's just teaching us life lessons. Those are life lessons.
Kieran is teaching us life lessons.
Hey, while we've got this massive crowd in the audience, let's circle back on Colin Simmons a little bit. Because we've got stuff we're going to talk about at 2:00. We haven't really gone into Colin for more than an hour now. If you're just tuning in part because you saw Kieran, but also in part, we do have Colin Simmons in the title of the show. Things look good for Colin Simmons today. I wrote last night on Orangebloods.com, positive vibes only. That was almost the title of the show, by the way. I think if Blake had had his way, the name of the show today would have been positive vibes only. And if you're going to do that, just write 12-0 minimum.
Yeah.
Just go the distance, right?
Sure.
Things look good today. Like, I don't have anything negative on the Colin Simmons front to report. 2 nights ago, sourcing was still confident that it was going to be Texas. But it became a situation that felt like, I don't know, it was complicated. I get the sense that conversations occurred yesterday. The conversations between Texas and Simmons went really well. And I think, we mentioned it earlier. Today's really turned in what ends up happening. This is really shitty, actually, Chad. Usually recruiting scoops come from the losing schools. So what happens is school finds out they're not going to get a kid. What do they care if they tell the world? You know what I mean?
Just leak it. They'll leak the other side.
Oh, it happens. 90% of recruiting leaks come from losing sides who have no skin in the game. Deep down, they know that they could probably cause more trouble in releasing it, right? We joked about Harvey Williams.
I was going to ask that, right? Do they just throw it out there thinking, you know what, let's get it out there, then maybe it'll freak the kid out and he'll come back to us.
Can't hurt.
Right? Yeah.
LSU coach then calls up Colin Simmons like, these Texas coaches can't keep their mouths shut.
Loud mouths.
You come here, we'll protect your secret. You go to Texas and so it's not a surprise that the day before he announces that, and look, it probably happened on the Texas side too. I mean, if Texas had heard yesterday or in the last 24 hours, it's definitely going to be LSU. The word gets out. That's how this stuff works, man. Right. And so last 24 hours, we're now really like 24 hours and 11 minutes away from Colin Simmons announcing his decision. Somebody was going to come out and wave the white flag today. And that somebody has been LSU media outlets who've either drop their confidence in their picks from 60 to 55, or they're flipping their future casts or crystal balls over to Texas, or they're writing on their message boards, it's going to be Texas. And here we are today. I mean, I don't want to say that all of the suspense from tomorrow has been wiped away, because I don't believe that's true. I think there will still be a little bit of nervousness of like, let's just get through this. And if he picks Texas, I can celebrate, but I'd rather wait. But everything that's happened in the last 24 hours couldn't have been better for Texas on the Colin Simmons front, it seems like. And real important, LSU and their media, I think, have really made a big deal in saying can't compete with Texas on the NIL front. I think it's a bookmark moment, because look, in women's basketball and baseball, LSU can't be beaten in NIL. They just won a national championship in baseball, because from an NIL perspective, they went out and got everybody they needed. They could not be beaten in NIL. Texas baseball, and I love the Texas baseball guys. Everybody that's associated with Texas baseball, the occupied left field, everybody just in the NIL side of things, what they're trying to do for the baseball team. Like, I love these guys, but they'll admit, like, we need more to beat LSU on a guy, because they are well-funded. Same thing with women's basketball right now. And look, LSU's women's basketball team during the offseason, Kim Mulkey got stronger. They went out and rated some players. Like, so,
and that's after winning a natty with 9 transfers.
They ain't stopping.
Right.
So for Texas to be in football in an NIL space where LSU is saying, hey, at the end of the day, what he's seen from Texas in terms of what his NIL upside is and how that's going to work for him, we can't compete. It's a hell of a, like I said, it's a bookmark moment, because if your other players in state at Texas and the word getting out is that LSU can't beat Texas in football in NIL, that is not a terrible message that you want getting out if you're Texas. Right. It's like in American Pie when Shitbrick pays the girl to let everyone around the school know that he's like well endowed.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing. It's like Johnny in the documentary, which we're about to talk about in 8 minutes, us finding out that they invented the Johnny came from oil story.
Yeah, right.
Which is
that was
fantastic.
Made up. Yes, right. At least it was embellished. It was definitely embellished.
You know, we came from oil, 3 generations of oil money. And like that worked, because people were like, oh, he's in Miami to catch a Heat game with LeBron. And it's like, well, yeah, because he comes from oil money.
Yep.
And I was like, well, no, he was signing footballs.
Yeah. No, that was crazy.
30 grand a month is what it sounded like.
Yeah. At one point, right. Yeah. There was a 30 grand payout at one point. Yeah. We'll get into that. By the way, Ketch.
Did he say he slept under $100,000?
Yes.
I thought he said having $100,000 under your bed.
Like under the bed. He slept on top of $100,000 was under the bed at the given moment. At 19. He said that was really effing cool.
I'd like to do that at 47.
Effing awesome, I think is what he said. Yeah.
It just sounds like it.
Exactly. All right, here you go. Chat of the day for me so far. Right there. That's the one. 11-1 minimum for Kieran with the double-digit win in Tuscaloosa. The Rational Texan says, Kieran with the Everclear in the Kool-Aid. Yeah, that's a different kind of Kool-Aid right there.
Still tastes like Kool-Aid, though.
Oh, yes, it does. It does taste like Kool-Aid. There's no doubt.
The more sugar you put into it, the easier it is to gulp down.
Yes, no doubt. No doubt. Oh,
all right,
man.
Let's just do this. Oh, do you want? You got anything else?
No. I was just saying we got the Colin Simmons kind of re-rack done. For people that haven't seen the pictures, go check him out. He sent a picture out of him in Miami gear, him in Texas gear, him in LSU gear. Some of the fans disagree with me that have seen him and think that the LSU one is not the best picture. So go judge for yourself. I tweeted it out at C Hastings, OBL. Ketch is, of course, at GK Ketch. And then Ketch at OB Wire. Is that where we want to be sending everybody in terms of the general OB stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So follow all those. Check out the pictures. I still say LSU's the best picture. That night shot of Death Valley is awesome.
And I want to we got a big crowd right now. I want to tell everybody, don't go anywhere. We're about to play a badass recruiting video. And when we come back, we're going to talk Johnny Manziel's documentary. But I'm going to tell you something about Johnny Manziel and Texas that you almost certainly have never seen or heard before. And then as Chad kind of let out of the bag, although I haven't explained it, so it's not really like a spoiler. I'm going to tell you why Johnny Manziel is exactly like Drew Brees as it relates to the Texas Longhorns. All that on the other side of this break. This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on the player generally considered to be the greatest Longhorn football player of all time. Vince Young was a five-star prospect by rivals when he signed with the Longhorns in 2002, finishing as the #1 overall player in the nation. 20-plus years later, the two things that stand out the most about Young's recruitment was how much ground the Longhorns made up in a blink of an eye. Weeks before his senior season began in 2001, his mother reported that Texas was out. Quote, "We ruled out Texas as Vincent has decided that he probably won't stay in the state of Texas to play in college," Miss Young said. In just a matter of months following that statement by his mom, Vince Young was pretty much wrapped up to go to Texas. The other thing that stands out about Young's recruitment was just how big he was in the city of Houston. I went to a playoff game with Madison against Hightower in the Astrodome, and opposing fans were jumping up in the stands over the excitement that Young was creating. I wrote for Orangebloods.com at the time, quote, "At that point, the Astrodome crowd started to go crazy. People in the Hightower section were high-fiving each other, laughing, and screaming in amazement," end quote. It was unlike anything I've ever seen before or since. On the day he committed to the Longhorns in January, Vince said, quote, "There's a lot of love down there at Texas, and that's what I was looking for before I visited. They made my mom smile, and that's all I needed to see. I committed to them this afternoon." Young was the bell cow of a 2002 recruiting class that was ranked first in the nation and is regarded as one of the best in the history of the school. That class signed 6 five-star prospects, which also included Justin Blaylock and Roderick Wright. Ultimately, Young's class was the foundation of the 2005 national championship team. We're back, Chad. Super chat. Better program, LSU or Texas? Honest opinion, LSU.
As we sit here right now in football, yeah, I'd say LSU right now. I'll give the Tigers enough love.
Brian Kelly's more proven than Steve Sarkisian. And the moment that changes, the moment Sarkisian goes 11-1 this year, I think that changes. But for now, you're talking about two big boy programs.
Yeah.
One's a lot more proven in the last. One's won a championship in the last 5 years, even if with different coaching. But Brian Kelly has been a more successful head coach than Steve Sarkisian. Until that changes even a little bit, for me, it's got to be LSU.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I'll give him the respect there. For Steve Sarkisian with me, I keep going back to that one stat. 4-10 in one-score games. 4-10 at Texas in one-score games. Gets into too many of them, loses too many of them. Brian Kelly doesn't have that feel for me. LSU. Texas is always a bigger brand. Right now, LSU is a bigger program.
If you told me Brian Kelly was coaching this year's Texas team, I'd go 12-0.
I don't know if I'd go that high right away, but hey, that would change things. There's no doubt.
That Brian Kelly's ever had a quarterback as good as Quinn Ewers. You know what I mean? Like normally with Notre Dame, it always feels like, God, if they were a little bit better on offense, they could beat almost anybody. They just have never quite had that.
Well, it's the theory he's pulling off here. It's very different than what like Jimbo's doing at A&M, because Jimbo was at Florida State and there was some recruiting you could do there. He obviously had a national title there. Brian Kelly, is trying this theory of, well, what if we take my coaching acumen and then instead of dealing with all the Notre Dame challenges, I get to go to Baton Rouge and take advantage of all that talent? It's scary to think about what it could be if it all ties together at the same time.
I would rather spend 3 years with Steve Sarkisian, though, than Brian Kelly. Like,
just in general?
If I had day in and day out, I have to be around one of the two.
Well, yeah, you want to feel good about yourself, right?
I mean, Brian Kelly, I think, will make you miserable, but the man can coach football.
He can, and I still give him credit for that self-awareness thing he did at Notre Dame when he brought everybody in and said, what's wrong? And a lot of them said, it's you. You're the problem. And he fixed some of that stuff. He fixed himself with donors and old alumni. He fixed himself with players. He became more accountable. And Ketch, if you noticed, the level of redness in his face, remember when he used to scream and yell and those veins would pop up in his forehead? It calmed down a little bit. By the end of the Ian Book time, it had softened a little bit, and he wasn't spitting in everybody's face and looking like he was about to die on the sideline. So I'll give Brian Kelly credit for that. And if he can take all that and keep going at LSU, that's dangerous for everybody they have to play.
It hasn't looked like yet on the field he's going to die on the field, which in South Bend, it sometimes looked like he was going to have an aneurysm.
Right.
By the way,
that.
Brian
give
Kelly,
credit for it.
Let's take care of the student managers better in Baton Rouge than we did in South Bend. Just FYI.
Man.
The people don't forget. Also, by the way, Steve Sarkisian has never allegedly covered up like a domestic issue. Like,
yeah, okay. Yeah.
Lizzie Seaberg is a thing that happened at Notre Dame under his watch. And I will never forget.
I know you won't.
When there was a young woman in South Bend that tried to get Notre Dame to listen to her about a situation she said happened with a football player, they did the opposite, and she eventually killed herself. And to me, that's on Brian Kelly a lot. He still played that guy. That guy never stopped playing for Notre Dame. So if you're, just FYI, if you're an LSU football fan, Brian Kelly's kind of dirty too.
In case y'all don't know, that's Geoff Ketchum, social justice warrior, right there in that top box, right there. That's
By the way,
warrior.
Don't say that. They will get so mad at me if you say that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ketch needs to lay off the Rogue Shop products. Why? Why would
you do that? By the way, yesterday was National CBD Day, and you did throw up the Rogue Shop logo, I know, at least one time yesterday. We should throw it up today. A little. What is this? What is this you're doing now? This is some of the Rogue Shop stuff you're telling me about? Are you rogue shopping right now? Is there a verb we can use? Are you going rogue?
Come on. Just go rogue. It's legal.
Is that what they call it?
It's legal CBD and THC. It's like taking a sip of beer. I took a sip, Chad. I took a sip.
Okay. What kind of flavoring you got going on over there?
Flavor is
strawberry.
Wedding cake.
Wedding cake.
The people know. I'm the people's champ when it comes to this.
I don't think I could have come up with a less masculine sounding flavor for you to be trying at that exact moment.
I like things that taste good.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Know, and I'm with you there. I'm with you. I'm the king of girly drinks and all that stuff. But wedding cake, that was.
Don't judge. Don't knock it till you've tried it, Chad.
I know I've not tried it. Rogue Shop. I'm all about trying it.
Paul, it's not always wedding cake. It's just wedding cake kind of today. See, there we go. I tried to click. There it is. It keeps happening. I tried to click on this one, Chad. And instead, now it's just going haywire.
I see. It's always wedding cake.
You aim for the wedding cake, and then Paul's comment drops up. And then accidentally, I almost clicked on this one, which is, see, there it is. It did it again. Stop leaving comments in the chat, guys. Might as well have been bubblegum.
There it is. Bubblegum. Yeah.
I feel judged is what
bubblegum is probably the one you could have gone to. There's a little less. A little bit less.
Almost called you Anwar. See, there's the rogue.
Yes.
Anwar, let's talk a little bit. No, I was going to say, so there's a couple of ways to start this Johnny Manziel thing.
Okay, before we start the Johnny Manziel, can I get you the crab bag item of the day and show you another beer jug?
You don't have to ask. You just have to remind me.
Okay, your beer jug of the day is this one here. This is from the Red Gap Brewing Company in Cisco, Texas. They have a brewery, Ketch. This place was as dry as you could imagine. You have to drive, you had to drive 20 miles away. There's a brewery now right down the street. So my dad takes this down to the brewery, gets them filled up along with the Aggie one, which is back there in the background. So Red Gap Brewing. There's a brewery in Cisco, Texas. For my dad, it's the greatest thing in the world. My mother's feelings on the matter are mixed. But that is your bottle. That is your item of the day. And
it looks like a jug that Otis from the Andy Griffith Show would have carried around.
It really does. Look at that. I mean, it's old school, like brown, the brown glass and everything. Yes.
Ernest T. Bass thinks that looks like a fantastic drinking contraption.
Yeah. What was that family that lived outside of town that Uncle Jesse was a part of? What were they called? You know what I'm talking about?
I'm just glad that I was able to, like, Ernest T. Bass came to mind.
Ernest T. Bass was good.
You're talking about the family with the cute daughter?
Yes, the Darlings. Was that it?
I don't know.
The Darling family. Yeah,
I'm doing my best.
Uncle Jesse had the gun in case somebody was coming after the daughter. Okay, so there you go. Yesterday in the crap bag, we previewed Johnny Manziel. You and I both watched the Manziel documentary. I watched it with my parents last night. So let's dig into Johnny Manziel. An hour and 12 minutes of goodness of Johnny Manziel.
Well, goodness isn't the word that I would use for all 112 minutes. I will say, guys, hang on. We're going to lay out some thoughts, and then I'm going to hit you with some Johnny Manziel, Texas Longhorn knowledge.
Yeah.
And I'm going to explain why Johnny Manziel didn't end up as a Longhorn.
Should we start with that? Are you burying the lead? Should we just start with that information, or you want to start with the documentary?
So I was trying to ask you. What do you want to do?
I think let's do it. We'll do a little bit of the documentary, and then you can jump in where you put it in there where it fits for you.
Okay, because I have a full screen like set of quotes.
Okay,
that go with what I'm going to tell you. That I don't think Texas fans or A&M fans have really. Probably obviously some A&M fans. I think when I reveal what I'm going to show, they will have seen this 15 years ago, but I don't think Texas fans have any idea.
Okay. All right, gotcha. All right, and by the way, I didn't have my light on the whole show until now, so I'll put the light on for Johnny. We'll have a little bit of that.
No,
all right, so yeah, exactly, shiny. Okay, so overall, I would say I thought the documentary was. I thought it was good. I thought it was pretty good. Honestly, I wanted more. When you're gonna do a doc of somebody that's got that infamous quality to them, I want the truth. I want all of the truth, and I want it all to be included. When I saw an hour, 12 minutes, I was a little disappointed. I was glad I'd be able to get it in a reasonable time, but Ketch, when it was over, I wanted 2. I wanted 2 or 2.5. I thought they glossed over some things. I didn't think they told really the whole story. I wanted a little bit more, honestly. That was kind of my overall take on it. I enjoyed some of it. I enjoyed some of what they did, but sometimes I was thinking to myself, wait a minute, didn't they just skip over all that? And then it was like one sentence would be said and they wouldn't explain where they were going. So I didn't really think it was as in-depth as I wanted it to be. I think they could have done this in multiple parts, honestly.
They definitely could have. It was thoroughly entertaining. The Johnny Manziel story. Forget about the bad stuff, right? We'll get to some of that actually here in a second. And really, my number one thought on watching the documentary was, I hope Johnny's okay. It doesn't end from a storytelling perspective in a way that, as a viewer, makes me think that in 5 years something bad won't happen to Johnny.
Right. It didn't end with him coaching in Kerrville.
He's not doing anything.
Right.
And if you listen to his sister, he might not ever be in a position to do anything.
But he's in a badass house in Arizona, looks like.
He's diagnosed as bipolar, which they kind of glistened over real quick. So I have to admit from the beginning, it ends with me having some concern as a human being for Johnny Manziel. That with a straight face and a smile and a wink, they tried to indicate that things are better. I hope that's true. I really do. Like, no matter what happens, but previous to this, as a human being, I hope he's able. I wrote yesterday on Twitter, I hope Johnny Manziel's able to find a second thing in life that is as rewarding as football for him as a teenager was.
Right.
The entire time I was watching the documentary, I was thinking of the movie Hoosiers. And I'm thinking of the conversation that Norman Dale has with Barbara Hershey. I can't remember her name from the movie. But he's like, what's your deal with basketball? And she's like, I see these guys and they're in their 30s and in their 40s. And all they can do is look back to when they were 17 and kings of the high school and living on these dreams. And Norman Dale shoots back like, have you ever been a king of a high school? Do you realize how great that is? And he's laying it out like, you're talking about something in a negative way. And this is the best time of these guys' lives. And I'm watching the documentary last night, and it becomes very clear what the best time of Johnny Manziel's life was. But if you ask me today what the best part of my life has been up until this point, I might point to this morning when I took my kids to the 4th grade and I watched my daughter hug her teacher and I watched my son run into the building because he was excited to be with 2 of his friends. I felt that was as rewarding and I felt as good and I enjoyed where I am in my life today as much as I ever have in my life. You watch the documentary with Johnny Manziel and it's clear he wants to be back in Kerrville and 17 again so bad. I don't even know that he fully enjoyed the A&M experience because it was too demanding.
Right. By the end of it, the wear and tear of it, you know, the description of what happened right after that Alabama win was interesting, how it all changed. And his sister talked about it and the parents talked about it. But yeah, that by the end of it, I've always wished as an Aggie for him to stay 1 more year, heck, 2 more, whatever he wanted to do as a redshirt sophomore when he left. But it almost felt like it wasn't possible for him. Too much pressure, too much stuff on him. And catching a line I thought was interesting is when he said, you know, it's like, it was never enough. When was it going to be enough? Somewhere along the line, he had those kind of conversations. But again, they didn't dig into some of that stuff as much as I thought they should. And yeah, I left with that same feeling too. I hope he's all right. I hope he can be okay, whatever it is. If it's do nothing, can he be okay doing nothing? I don't know. But he just felt like a guy that notion that he loved almost partying after games more than he did games. Like the game was to get him to the party. That was a little disturbing. And how about this, Ketch? Is anybody else disturbed at the fact that Johnny Manziel might not have talked to Uncle Nate in that long? Like
a decade almost?
Did we know that? I'm assuming Billy Lucci knew that. Next time we have him on from Texas, I got to ask Billy about that part. Like, did Johnny and Uncle Nate split, the friendship split at the NFL point, and from then to now,
I thought Nate was in his house the whole time.
Me too. I thought Nate was with him the whole time, and Nate's sitting there looking off into the distance talking about, I just miss my friend. And I'm like, wait a minute.
It was heartbreaking in a way.
What is happening here? And, you know, we got great stories in sports with LeBron and some of these guys and that have made business partners out of their best friends in life. And they're still together and they're still doing business and they're still friends. And that's a cool story. I thought Johnny had at least the friend part with Nate, but apparently it's not true.
So before we get into this Longhorn connection with Manziel, which they hype up in the documentary, he grew up a Texas Longhorn fan.
Yeah, they didn't do enough with it, Ketch. In addition to whatever you're going to get into, I wanted more of the where was the more of that recruiting stuff?
They never mentioned that he committed to Oregon?
Right. They acted like Johnny was nobody was offering. He kind of had this thing of, I got a couple offers. Dude,
and
you were
committed, offered and my life changed. Well,
you were committed to Oregon.
Yes.
You were committed to Oregon in the 2010s. That's not a nothing.
They just played for a national championship.
Yes, right. Because that's who
Cam Newton.
That's who Cam beat.
Yeah.
Right. In 2010. Yes, exactly.
He's in the class of 2011.
Yeah.
Cam had just played Oregon for the national championship.
You're right. Yes. So that, that part of it was interesting to me. And then to reference that he liked Texas is one thing, but why not mention in the documentary that Mac Brown thought he was a defensive back? that multiple schools thought he was a defensive back.
They never brought that up.
Isn't that one of the most important angles of that story? Like, Texas fans are tortured by that notion and the fact that RG3 walked in and out and Mac Brown said, "You're a defensive back," but they never mentioned it in the documentary. Like, let me hear Johnny swear at that idea, because he would have. They let Johnny swear all through the documentary. Let him say, "They thought I was an effing DB. They thought I was a DB," and just let him go. But it didn't happen.
I'm going to explain it, though. I think I have the reason.
Okay, lay it out for me. This is, I think, the spot. Tell me what you got for the people on this.
I have to say this, because I do need to say, because I don't want it to be like I buried this lead. They discussed the girlfriend in the infamous situation with Johnny, and I think at the time was his fiance, and he gets pulled over, and it was a thing. It was a TMZ thing.
And that's during the Cleveland Browns era for the people that don't remember. Yeah.
And the way he's telling the story, he's admitting that life was out of control and that relationship wasn't good. He's telling the story that they're having an argument in the car. And that at one point while the car is moving, she's trying to get out of the car while it's moving. And at that point, he makes a face and gives the body language tells us something else happened, and then they go away from it and they don't explain it. And considering that's one of the last times I remember Johnny Manziel as a public person.
Yes.
The girlfriend stuff happened. There were allegations of physicality, and she needed a protective order, and all of that stuff was happening. And I left with the feeling that he might have put his hands on her. And I'm not saying that he did. I don't know. They don't tell us in the documentary.
No,
but they tell us that she's trying to get out of a moving car. And then he's like, after that, ... And then they just move on to the next part of the documentary. As entertaining as it was, there's a moment in there where there might be indications that some sort of physical stuff happened with a girlfriend. And I hated that the documentary didn't have the guts. If you're going to get raw and tell us what happened and what his life has been like, don't ignore potentially the ugliest thing that he's ever done.
Yeah, I agree with you. We talked about this in prep. At one point, we paused the documentary and somebody had to go to the bathroom, grab something to eat, whatever. We come back and I'm about to hit pause and I realize there's only 19 minutes to go. And I just kind of got sad and thought, this needs to be a lot longer, or they really better get after it in 19 minutes. So I agree with you. They didn't hit everything they needed to. I talked to you about this earlier as well. I'm a pro wrestling guy. There was a documentary done about Ric Flair that I thought just kind of skimmed over the top. And then later there was one that was done that I really thought got into it. This one just didn't really get into it as much as I would have wanted it to. The other thing, Ketch, the notion, I hate this thought for anyone, but me being an Aggie, this hits a little different because it's your guy. It's also one of the guys that's won a Heisman Trophy for your school. Johnny Manziel, if I heard him correctly, is basically telling us it got so bad, he thought about taking his own life, planned to take his own life, and I think he basically said, "I tried, but the gun clicked." I think that's what
I told you. I don't believe that story, and that part of this documentary was trying to what's BS and what is the truth. And I think there might have been a lot of both, and we're left just wondering. Because I don't know that I believe that story, but it bothers me that that's in his head.
Well, yeah, it was weird. I just, as he said it, I thought, wait a minute, is he just making a reference to something clicking, like an idea clicked in his head? Or is he literally making the physical reference? I tried to kill myself with a gun and it did not work.
And he's like, I can't explain why it clicked.
And then they just took off and then they just kept going. And I'm like, wait a second. So then no other friend references it. Nobody else in the documentary references it. The agent, nobody ever said anything. And then Johnny didn't explain what was going on. Was there a counselor ever involved? Did Johnny ever go to counseling? Any of the rehab counselors want to talk to us about it? I just felt like that moment got flown by. And I'm like, wait a second, hold on. My guy tried to kill himself and it didn't work. That was a little bit strange to me. So, it was, again, back to just, you hope he's okay. You hope he's all right. And that was terrifying stuff. I love that athletes, anybody, but that these big name athletes could admit to us, Ketch, that they were in that place. If it's real, and I'm taking him at his word, if that is real and we are to believe him, that's dark stuff. But it's also things that, Michael Phelps has talked about and other big time athletes have talked about, mental health and depression. And it gets so bad that they want to close the door. And that's terrifying. But if we're going to do that, then let's let Johnny Manziel explore that.
Well, and if you're classified as bipolar, don't wait an hour to tell us that all this stuff has been going on.
Yeah.
If that's true, right? Like, I don't know. I tend to believe that when he says I've been classified as bipolar, I actually tend to believe that part.
Right. And you had a brilliant idea as we were talking about it for a director change or a way they could have handled this. To start with that idea. Start the documentary by talk about some of the bad time.
I'm bipolar. I almost killed myself.
Bipolar, and talk about some of those dark times, and then do a rewind and say this many years earlier and start back in Kerrville. And then you'll have the context of like, it gets this bad. Let's go show you the good. We'll get there. And then we'll go through that and get to the other stuff. They just never got there.
Okay. Here it is.
Okay.
I'm going to answer why Johnny Manziel didn't come to Texas. Because it is brought up in the documentary. He grew up a Texas fan. Yep. And then Johnny doesn't really talk about it at all. And his dad's like, it just didn't work out. Before we go there, let me take you back to the summer of 1996. Drew Brees is coming off of an ACL injury in his junior year at Austin Westlake. And Drew Brees, coming off of that injury, goes to summer camp for John Mackovic in Texas in the summer of 1996. Now, 6 months later, Drew Brees wins a state championship at Westlake in one of the most famous state champions, I think, of the last 30 years, that Westlake team that had Seth McKinney on it and just loaded with talent. He goes to a summer camp in 1996, and John Mackovic is evaluating his quarterback options. And that day in 1996, Drew Brees just didn't impress John Mackovic. You know who did? A little red-headed son of a gun from Louisiana. You might have heard of him. Kid named Major Applewhite. Now, Drew Brees' mom used to call me at that time and curse out Applewhite. She'd be like, I can't, this would have been a little bit later after Applewhite. So it's like December, not like when this happened this summer at the summer camp. But she'd call me up and go, I can't believe they're giving this scholarship to Major Applewhite. Drew should be going to Texas. And it was a constant message. I don't even remember why we talked on the phone enough that I heard her say that numerous times. Fast forward to the summer before Johnny Manziel's junior year at Kerrville. Johnny Manziel camped at Texas. Camped at Texas. Put the full screen graphic up, if you will, Blake. I'm going to read you the quote once Blake's able to find it.
And to clarify, Ketch, he is going to this camp as a quarterback, correct?
Here it is. You're going to read it. He works out in College Station on Saturday. He then drove to Austin to take part in the Texas camp on Sunday. Quote, I played just quarterback, not wide receiver, not DB. I played just quarterback at the Texas camp. I think I did pretty well. There were probably a few more kids there than there were at the Texas A&M camp. By the way, one of them would be named David Ash. It was on this day, during this particular camp performance, that Texas decided to offer David Ash as their quarterback. Johnny says I think the A&M camp definitely went better, but it went well today. Johnny played quarterback. Johnny went to camp at Texas. And on the day that Johnny went to Texas, Texas made its quarterback decision for the class of 2011. And they picked David Ash over Johnny Manziel because this day that Johnny Manziel admits, I just played quarterback. He admits the day before when he was at A&M, it definitely went better. Johnny didn't have a good camp performance at Texas at quarterback. David Ash did. And the decision was made that day. Has nothing to do with Matt Brown looking at him and thinking that he was a better wide receiver than a DB. They got a firsthand look at him. And just like John Mackovic did in 1996, he made a long-term decision based on 1 day of evidence. Texas looked at Johnny Manziel at this camp, saw him in person for 1 day, and they made their quarterback evaluation on him forevermore based on what they saw that day. And I think in Johnny's own words there, he'll tell you, wasn't as good as it was at A&M that day. And look, A&M didn't even offer right away. A&M was still a year away from offering. So it wasn't the Johnny Manziel yet that was taking the world on fire. It was a different version of this Manziel who wasn't quite that primetime player yet. And it's interesting to hear him say there are a lot of people that were already committed there. Connor Wood, Case McCoy. It's like, so it was good to compare myself there. There were some good receivers.
Also, something to consider, Ketch, back, especially even back in that time, maybe even today. Think about the kind of quarterback Johnny Manziel was. Does he absolutely blow you away in a quarterback camp environment?
No.
Right? Think about what that means. A quarterback camp. Put that in your mind of what you think that involves. Is Johnny Manziel going to be the guy that just blows your mind at a quarterback camp? Maybe not. But that is interesting. So what you're saying is if a Texas fan wants to hold on to this notion of, oh, they thought he was more of a DB than he was a quarterback, you would argue to them that's not true. They knew very well he was a quarterback. They just liked another quarterback better.
I think if they're really in that documentary, it goes another hour and they go 5 more minutes into the recruiting component of this. And they explain why Texas wasn't the school that he ultimately went to. I think they mentioned they leave out the little bitty detail of we went to Texas, we worked out. Mm-hmm. I didn't perform great that day. They picked somebody else over me. Right.
Yeah, you're right. That's part of the narrative that's never really been there.
And it's crazy to think about these sliding door moments because Major Applewhite was I don't know that I'll go so far as to say a great player. He's close as a college player. And ultimately, he loses his starting job to Chris Sims. I don't even know that we'd call Chris Sims a great player. So they were both very good players. But Drew Brees was a 2-time finalist at Purdue and went to the Rose Bowl and all of these things, right? I mean, he was a legitimate Hall of Fame college player who would have died to go to Texas. And John Mackovic probably saw that kid in person 6 times because Randy Rogers had a kid on that Westlake team, and he and Mackovic watched Westlake in person that season countless times. I can't tell you how many times I went to a Westlake game that year and saw them both standing on the sidelines. Drew Brees in the middle of a historically good season. They picked Major Applewhite based off 1 day in June.
There's no argument Mackovic did not know who Drew Brees was.
Correct.
Right.
And consequently, when Manziel is having that season that he had as a senior at Kerrville, and look, I can remember working at the Horn, and I think it was Foss that would come in and be like, I saw Manziel play this weekend. And holy crap. That guy's incredible. I can remember hearing it every single weekend. Texas made its quarterback evaluation of Johnny Manziel 15 months earlier. And it just goes to show you, boy, you got to be careful on these in-person evaluations. I always talk about it. I've found myself in trouble over the years with evaluations because what you see in front of your own eyes dominates. I went and saw Robert Griffin III play in person in the playoffs his senior year in high school. It was a game over at the Palace on Palmer Lane. They're playing Rosenberg-Lamar, which had Jaquiz Rogers playing on the team.
Okay.
There was like a 40-mile-an-hour wind. It was cold. It was so cold, I left at halftime. I was like, I'm good. I've seen everything I need to see. Unfortunately, I missed all the good stuff that happened in the second half. So for 2 quarters of football, I watched RG3 in the playoffs, and he kind of sucked. The conditions were awful. But what happened? Well, that's when I saw him in person. So the idea, the confirmation bias gets planted in your brain. Well, I know what I'm doing. And what my eyeballs told me in person is that he's not very good. And then you get all of this outside sample size that tells you he's really freaking good.
Yeah.
But you can't let go of your confirmation bias because for one day you saw him on what might not have been his best day, and that's your evaluation. It happens all the time. It's the reason why Drew Brees didn't play at Texas. It might be the reason that Johnny Manziel didn't play at Texas. It might be the reason why I didn't have Robert Griffin III ranked as a 5-star, because I saw him on the wrong night in wrong conditions. And I was like, he's just a guy. And then he wins a Heisman. And you have to then go back and go, I was wrong. And not only was I wrong, I have to realize that I can't always trust my eyes. I can't always trust my experience. I have to know that there are other experiences that define whether or not this kid's really, really talented, how far he's going to go. And I just think it's really interesting in watching the thinking about the Manziel situation takes me back to the Brees situation. And it's just a reminder, these coaches get it wrong sometimes. Johnny Manziel that day in that same interview said, quote, so in this interview that was on our A&M website at the time, said Manziel considers himself a quarterback first and foremost, but is open to playing anything in college. I think this is really interesting what I'm about to read to you, because we know how much shit Mac Brown took over not looking at Manziel as a quarterback. Manziel says, quote, I definitely feel I could play either position at the next level. I think it's an asset to be able to play both and basically be just an athlete, as Rivals would put it. I consider myself a quarterback first, but I'm letting schools know I'm open to whatever. I think it helps to possibly get an offer at quarterback if they know I can play another position as well.
And just for the record, that other position was DB?
I think wide receiver.
Or wide out.
I think wide out, because I think at some of these camps, he was working out at wide receiver. I think at the A&M camp, as a matter of fact, he played multiple positions at the A&M camp. And they came away liking him more than Texas, who just worked him out at quarterback. And then he only becomes one of the 5 best college quarterbacks in the history of the sport. Forget about whatever else we think happened. Johnny Manziel as a college player wasn't just great. He was out of this world sensational. And Texas missed on him on a one-day evaluation that backfired.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the things, the documentary did do a pretty good job of going back to that time, trying to find, go back to that lightning in a bottle, that A&M had there in 12 and 13, the way the country, you go back and think about the way the country talked about him, the way that Heisman run. I was reminiscing last night about when he got really in position for that Heisman run, when Colin Klein had his little slip in the middle of the season. Thank you, Baylor, if I haven't thanked you recently for that one, to open up the doors. But that whole run was cool to watch. The other aspect of it, Ketch, people have been on the chat talking about it, the whole NIL thing with Johnny and, you know, the signings and to lay all of that out, that we hadn't heard all those details of $30,000 in a safe. And I'd forgotten some of the details of what he ended up doing. And he and Nate both admit, yeah, we did this, we did that. Then we made up the story about the money in the family.
I hope they filed tax returns, because what happened in that documentary sounded to me like two guys that might have just been taking money in and spending it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly that too. And they, you know, to go through that process with all the money and the money under the bed comment that you mentioned, $100,000 under the bed. I'm 19 years old. And he was like, it was fucking awesome, because he's Johnny Manziel and he's swearing through the whole thing. It was great. And that was the part of it that I think does have some far reaching, I think, a little bit of tentacles into where we are now, talking about the Arch Manning thing and whoever it is, right? Quinn Ewers or Caleb Williams or whatever. The notion of how much I remember that time. And my parents and I were talking yesterday about when we bought our shirts with the 2 on it, you know, the blank A&M t-shirts that they started selling with the 2. They didn't say Manziel, just said 2 on it. And of course, nowadays the names are on there and these guys are getting a cut. The notion of what he could have gotten.
I know, it's
in autograph signings.
He might not have gone pro, Chad.
And the jerseys, right?
Third year.
Yeah, there could have been a reason at 2013 at the end for Johnny to say, man, Chad, it's crazy and it's this and it's that. And I'm like, right, Johnny, but you've got that car deal. You've got that deal with the restaurant chain. You've got that. You got this. You got that. You got that. And he looks at it and goes, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess you're right. Maybe we'll come back and see what happens in 2013.
He would have been a printing press
14.
Of money with NIL. And the Aggies, I joked with you about this earlier today because we were talking about the Colin Simmons thing. In a world where Johnny Manziel, after 2013, says, I might transfer somewhere else for NIL reasons, they would have paid him $10 million. Like, they just would have done it. I don't know how they would have done it, but like Johnny Manziel at that point would have made Quinn Ewers look like he was on welfare.
Yeah, right. Oh, it would have been incredible. And remember this, Ketch. Remember that moment when A&M went to South Carolina to start the 2014 season and Kenny Hill went crazy and broke a Manziel record? What if it was Manziel? What if that was Johnny Manziel coming back for his third year of playing, debuting on the SEC network? Because remember, that was the first one. It's crazy. That big intro with Brent Musburger. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, it's the SEC network. That was that night. What if Johnny takes the snaps that night?
Cotton's right. Johnny was Van Wilder already.
Right.
He was Van Wilder.
Can
he
you
would have
imagine
been Van Wilder on steroids?
If that dude had been that guy plus SEC network in 14, duck. I don't know what, just duck.
So Paxton wants to know, I did not look at Lamar Jackson really when he was in high school. I mean,
okay.
I wish I could. I just being transparent. I don't always watch every kid across the country.
Where'd he go to high school? I don't.
Lamar Jackson's from Miami, right?
He's Florida guy, right?
Hold on.
I
can't believe I don't remember that.
That was going to be my guess. My guess is he's a Florida kid.
Lamar Jackson. I'm going to look it up. I'm just making sure. It's been a while since I've been on his high school profile.
Yes.
He's from
probably a good thing.
Boynton Beach, Florida.
Yeah. Okay.
Went to Boynton Beach High School.
Yeah.
He was ranked as a low 4-star prospect by Rivals and the number 51 player in the state of Florida.
Got you.
Oops. Real quick. I don't even know. Paxton took us to Lamar Jackson talk. I'm going to read you some names ranked ahead of Lamar Jackson in the 2015 quarterback recruiting rankings, okay?
Okay. All right. Here we go.
The number 1 quarterback in the country that year.
Yeah.
DeAndre Francois, Florida State.
I remember that name. Florida State. Yep. If it wasn't for some bad O-line play, he might have lived through that a little better.
Blake Barnett was number 2. He signed with Alabama. He was a California kid.
Yeah.
Didn't pan out.
Uh-huh.
Number 4, you might remember. I'm going to hit some names you're definitely going to remember. But number 4 was Brandon Winbush out of Notre Dame.
Wow, I'd forgotten that name.
Who was ranked 1 spot ahead of a guy named Kyler Murray.
No, Kyler.
If you remember that name.
Hello, Kyler.
Yeah, no. Kyler Murray, second day in a row, he gets a shout out here on the show. He was number 5 in the country.
Okay.
Number 6, Jarrett Stidham.
Wow, Jarrett Stidham.
Which,
I'd not thought of Jarrett in a while. Baylor to Auburn?
Yes.
Right?
And then Sam Darnold was number 8.
Okay.
A kid named Chad President from Temple High School who signed with Baylor was number 9.
Chad President. Sounds pretty good.
For the record, I thought Chad President was a wide receiver, and that's what he played in college.
Chad President sounds like the next idea after Chad Vader. After Chad Vader, they would have tried Chad President.
Then it's like, let me just go through these names because I don't remember almost any of them. You got Sherrion Jones, Kelly Bryant, DeAndre Johnson, Jawan Jennings, John Kohler, Terrence Gibson.
Did you say would Kelly Bryant have been the guy that went to Clemson? That guy?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Torrance Gibson, Lorenzo Nunez.
Come on.
And then Lamar Jackson.
Nice.
That's actually a pretty crackerjack popping group of quarterbacks.
I was going to say, there's some guys in there that made impacts. Absolutely.
That's 2 Heisman Trophy winners.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're getting Lamar Jackson and you're getting Kyler Murray.
2 Heisman Trophy winners, high draft picks in the NFL.
Sam Darnold makes for another high first-round draft pick.
Sure.
And so 3 of this, if I tell you that 3 of the top 17 guys all end up top 5 players in the NFL draft, that's a good year in recruiting at that position.
No doubt.
There are a lot of misses, but to have hits that high is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, that's big time stuff. It's a good question there. Thank you, Paxton, for sending us down a Lamar Jackson path. Yeah, I would recommend the Netflix, definitely the Johnny Manziel documentary. I think you should check it out if you love college football. But if you want a full, really drawn out story, here's the other thing, Ketch. We're in a world where The Last Dance has happened. We're in a world where long, well done, deep level sports documentaries are out there. And this one just felt like a kind of, let's go hour 15, kind of skim over the top and we move on. It wasn't a total skim over the top. I'm not going to say it that way, but I needed more. I wanted more. And I'm saying that from my perspective. You're telling me from your perspective, you wanted more as well. So I'm hoping there's maybe a director's cut out there somewhere. Give me more of this story. Flesh it out a little more.
Kate, shout out to Kate. Welcome, Kate. We haven't seen a lot of women in the chat participating. So, Kate,
what's up, Kate?
Double welcome. I say it twice. Chad, do you think Johnny could have led the Aggies to a national championship in his sophomore year if he had only been focused and doing everything possible prep-wise as Vince was in 2005?
Man, led them to a national
Was Evans on the 2014 team? He was. Or yeah.
2013?
2013 he was, right?
I believe so. I believe Evans was still there. He would have lost the lineman. They're saying his sophomore. Okay, that's sophomore year. So that is 13.
Instead of 8-4, national
right.
A natty.
Exactly. They went 8-4, won the bowl 9-4. So, man, I wouldn't go quite that far. I would have loved for that team to have been better. But with what they lost on the offensive line and on the defensive side, I don't know if it was quite national championship. I do like where you're going, though, in terms of when you're talking about the focus level. My dad and I were talking about this last night. I think there is a comparison with Johnny and Vince. I think Johnny was first off, a more destructive version, a more self-destructive version. Both would tell you they didn't study a lot, and we'll get to that iPad comment in a second. But both would tell you they weren't the best students of football. But, Ketch, I would just argue Johnny did more to destroy himself as it was going on. And then you've also got to consider that in one case we're talking 5'10", freakish hands, yes, but and the body he had. On the other side, you're talking about that 6'5", 240 super freak trying to tackle a tight end that Vince Young was. So it's a little different in some ways, but that comparison is interesting to me. I'll say there wasn't the team around Johnny in 2013 was not the team that was around Vince in 05. Let me just lay that out.
People, what was not mentioned in no Luke Jokel or Jake Matthews. Like that offense was loaded in 2012.
Dude, yes. And that's the other thing. I went to the Auburn game in 2013. Johnny got beat to hell in that game. And when they went to Death Valley, he could barely feel his hand. He had some kind of cast they had to put him in. He went into that game not really being able to feel his hand. Plus, who knows what partying they were doing because he's Johnny. So you had all of that. So, Ketch, the respect I'll give in that discussion right there is I think that is making it simple. And you're making it about Johnny and Vince, and you're not giving enough credit to what Vince had out there with him. I think that's a key element to that. Johnny's team in 2012, if they could have really found themselves earlier and found their way into a playoff, that's a team I think that's interesting. If that 11-2 A&M team that whipped Oklahoma goes into an expanded college football playoff, I would love to see how it would have played out.
Nobody would have wanted to play them in 2012 at the end of the year.
I'm not telling you they necessarily beat Alabama again.
Alabama would have wanted that smoke, though.
I'm telling you they're a factor. They're an absolute factor. That's a nasty group right there.
In a 2012 expanded playoff, Alabama is – and look, they might have got their lunch money taken again if they weren't careful, but they would have wanted that smoke.
Right, especially if Nick Saban coaches with the arrogance that he did in Tuscaloosa. If he backs all his DBs off 10 yards and dares Johnny Manziel to throw the ball, yeah, he'll get beaten again because that's how he lost that game, 20-0. Just letting Johnny pick him apart in that first quarter. Thank you, Nick.
What is it about former A&M quarterbacks that don't like to watch film?
Kyler's
the same way. And look,
who's that?
When we heard that Kyler Murray doesn't watch film.
Yep. I don't know. It's like that whole era. I don't know that produced it. But for those that missed it, this is fascinating. The agent, Johnny's agent in the pros, laid this story out that at one point the Browns GM contacts him and says, hey, we got one thing we really need to talk to you about. We need Johnny to watch more film. And the agent goes, well, come on, man. He's got to be watching film. And he's like, well, we track the iPads of all these guys when they take them home. Johnny's at 0.0 hours.
Johnny hadn't even tried to play solitaire on this iPad.
No.
Accidentally opened up some film.
My man hadn't even played Angry Birds or whatever it was at the time, right? And then they pan to Johnny, and Johnny says on camera, Johnny goes, 0. He didn't deny it.
And then the fourth string quarterback's taking his drug tests, and Johnny's like,
yeah, nodding along. So, Ketch, while you earlier proposed a similarity with Breeze and Manziel, let me give you the ultimate contrast between Breeze and Manziel. Drew Brees watched film. Lots of it.
He's known for that.
Tons of it. Drew Brees was there. The janitors knew Drew Brees would show up and set their brooms out for them. And
Drew had to constantly get new iPads replaced.
Oh,
because he's burning them out.
Drew Brees probably went through 8 iPads in a season with the Saints. My man worked hard. That is the crushing blow. If you're a fan of Johnny, if you're a fan of Vince, if you're a fan of Vic, if you're a fan of Ryan Leaf, if you're a fan of a stud quarterback that just thought, my quarterbackness will do it. My arm will do it. My feet will do it. Yeah, well, they got film where you can watch the other day. You take your film and you shove it where the sun don't shine. I got the talent. I'm going to kick their ass. That we all have to live with that if you're a fan of one of those guys. Clearly, Manziel's one of those. I've never heard a 0.0 iPad story, though, on an NFL quarterback. He's one of 32 at that point, Ketch. He's one of 32, and he literally didn't watch any film outside the facility or inside of it on his iPad.
Do you know what didn't happen in Cleveland that I'm a little surprised about? I'm surprised because Anwar talks about this all the time. In the NFL, players will let anything go. but don't mess with their money.
Right.
And if you're the starting quarterback at that point and you're not watching film, I'm surprised somebody didn't kick his ass in the NFL. Yeah. I'm surprised one of these linemen, because you're messing with those dudes' money at that point.
And think about it. More guys should have done it to a Vince, to a Vic, it should have happened to all these guys. But for some reason, you're right. It kind of doesn't. Hey, by the way, how about this story? How about the story that when he did the team workout, I think for the Browns, was it the Browns or some other team? They literally had no receivers because they were all out partying the night before. Receivers are too hammered. Johnny's completely hungover coming off of it. And his agent and like random people in his business side run the routes.
How then it was you have to be that you got all of your workout participants so drunk that they can't help you the next day.
Right. And then they had Lucci on there talking about these are the workout. Remember when Johnny wore the helmet for the pro workout? Still never seen that since. He wears the helmet, and then in one of these pro workouts or whatever, they don't have enough receivers. His agent is literally running slant routes for him.
I thought Billy was going to say that he ran routes.
Yeah, I know. I was too. And then Billy at the end of it goes, yeah. And then I talked to Johnny and said, how'd it go? And Johnny's like, I fucking nailed it. And I'm like, what?
Throwing to his agent.
What are you talking
And he was right.
about?
He was right, though.
Yeah, I know. I fucking nailed it. And he did get drafted in the first round. That was the whole point. Get him into the first round. So the Cleveland Browns partially drafted Johnny Manziel off of a slant route he threw to his agent? What?
That will never happen again. Never.
And only the Browns, right? The Cowboys, they pointed it out. You and I both, as Cowboy fans, are glad they didn't make the choice. Even Jerry, Steven probably had to chloroform Jerry that night, knock him out, right? To get him not, I want the kid from A&M. I want him. He's magic. They call him Johnny Football.
They chloroform Jerry.
I'll make the shirt in blue, Johnny Football. They somehow got Jerry to take to be happy taking Martin, and the Browns still took Manziel because he threw to the agent. Like, I don't even know how to tell that. That's the craziest thing. Those little things is why it's worth watching, because you found out some stuff you had no idea.
It's crazy, guys. We're getting ready to wrap things up.
The chloroform just knocks you out, right? That didn't kill you.
It does not kill you. I think it just puts you to sleep.
Knocks you out. That's what I thought it was. It'd be Jerry. I want the quarterback, and then and he just falls out.
They did that. They chloroformed him while one was like, shh,
Dad, calm down. Shh. And he wakes up and says, I want some Johnny Walker Blue. Okay, we'll get you some Johnny Walker Blue. You're fine. But we're not taking that quarterback from A&M.
Oh, that was like the first time I'd ever heard Steven's in control of the draft room.
Oh, and how
Jerry's been put out the pasture.
Whew. Yeah, that was a big moment in Cowboy history, because 2 years before, Jerry takes Johnny 5 times in that draft. He'd have done the Ricky thing. He'd have sent his whole draft. Send him every pick I've got.
Himself, Chad.
Do what?
He bids against himself.
Yes, absolutely. He would have bid against himself. He would have done everything. He would have let Johnny wear number 12 and piss off Staubach fans. It would have been awful.
He'd be like, Houston, we'll give you 5 first-round draft picks.
Yeah, right.
And then they would have been like, Jerry, we're going to call you back. And Jerry would have been talking to Steven. Oh, what if somebody else called up Matt and offered 6? Call the Texans up. Call them up.
Oh, my God. I'll give you 5 picks and DeMarcus Ware. Get him out of here. Get him out of here.
We'll give you Tony Romo's sack of a body. You can have it. You can have your quarterback.
Oh, my God.
Guys.
All right.
We are less than 24 hours away from Colin Simmons' announcement.
Oh, good Lord.
Tomorrow, you can go to 24/7 and watch Colin Simmons make his announcement. What I would suggest that you do is put both of us up on YouTube at the same time.
I like that idea.
Have us on a 5-second delay.
Just mute us. You can mute us at the beginning. No?
Maybe like a 10-second delay.
Okay.
Watch the Colin Simmons announcement.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody starts cheering. Ah! at that point, you've seen everything that you need to see on that screen.
And then we'll break down.
Pause that one or mute that one, and then turn it to us and watch what the hell happens here, good or bad. We think Colin Simmons is coming to Texas.
And if you missed it earlier, Ketch has said if he picks Miami, Ketch will take his shirt off and run around that chair 3 times.
Naked.
Not naked,
Jaybird.
please.
I said Jaybird style, not old man Hastings style.
That's what I want tomorrow. I want that.
Dude, don't even put that into the universe.
Don't
even put that. I'm telling you right now, I will have to leave. Here's what would have to happen. I would have to let you take over the show.
Okay, it'll be my show after that.
And I would have to get in the car and drive somewhere.
Oh, my God.
Like Marfa. They're going to find me.
I'm sorry, Longhorn fans.
I'm going to disappear.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I kind of want that, but Longhorn fans and LSU fans, they kind of want that. I do.
You're a bastard, man.
I am. Yeah.
You're like, I love you, Geoff, but if you have a terrible day tomorrow, I can overcome that and I'll survive. So we'll be doing this tomorrow. I don't know how many likes we've had, but we have had a badass show. 229 likes. There's still like 400 of you in the chat. Give us some likes on the way out. SEC Chad, we'll let you have the last word. We will see. SEC Chad is saying LSU lock. Let's go, BK. I don't know that that's going to happen, SEC Chad, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll be here all day tomorrow. What you need to know, all 372 of you still, according to Restream, watching the show, Rod Babers, the best number 21 in the history of Texas football, follows us in less than 5 minutes. He's going to talk Texas. He's going to talk Cowboys. He's going to talk NFL. He might talk some Manziel because I got to believe somewhere Rod Babers probably snuck in the Manziel. Like Rod watches like 8 things at once all the time.
You know he watched it.
Oh, yeah.
How could you not?
He was breaking down film, something Johnny didn't do, while watching Johnny Manziel say he doesn't break down film. Guys, have a great rest of the day. We will be back tomorrow. It was a great crowd today. I really appreciate it. Chad appreciates it. We'll see you later. Chad, give them the sign off.
Thank you all for checking it out today. We will talk to you tomorrow at